highway. In Salt Lake County, where the roads are a little more dry, it's pretty good. Just a little southbound slowdowns in Midvale on I-15 approaching 7200 south, and some spotty slowdowns on northbound 15 from 4500 south up to 13th south. Cameron?
We still got that big patch of traffic on southbound I-15 from North Salt Lake until just about the top of Rose Park and over on I-215's west belt, where it'll stretch from the top of the North Interchange until North Temple. Arctic Spas, hot tubs, and swim spas with stores in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Comfort with multi-level seating, 100% massaging jets, and adjustable pillows. ArcticSpasUtah.com. I'm Cameron Elliott in the KSL Traffic Center.
Rain off and on today. Highs in the 60s. Clear tomorrow in 60s, 70s starting on Thursday. Right now it's 55 degrees downtown.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Gas prices saw another big spike overnight, and their upward trend is not stopping. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of regular unleaded gas in Utah is now $4.47 a gallon. That's up 9 cents since last night and 31 cents over the last month. Experts predict prices could rise even further if there are more disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. Box Elder County commissioners explaining their vote last night unanimously to give developers a 40,000-acre data center and to move forward. KSL News Radio's Reagan Edelman has details.
It was a contentious meeting before the commission unanimously voted yes, and they say it didn't come easy, highlighting efforts to keep the community involved and listen to feedback. When asked about the loudest concerns from community members, like water usage and air quality, county commissioners said it's out of their hands.
Our vote today had nothing to do with water or air quality. Again, those are not issues that the county has any control over. Those are state-run parks. Those water rights are owned by individuals.
They say their yes vote boiled down to what was best for the county, potential for economic investment and new jobs to benefit residents, businesses, and schools. Commissioners also promised that the project won't happen overnight. It will involve several phases over many years, regulatory review, and a lot of oversight. Reagan Edelman, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow up 346 points to 49,287. Well, we got rain on the roads, crashes. We'll update traffic and weather together next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55. But unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
This is the story of the one. As a procurement manager for a hospital system, she keeps every facility in her network stocked and ready. That's why she counts on Grainger to be her single source for thousands of products, from disinfectants to lighting, air filters, and more. And with fast, dependable delivery, Grainger helps her keep every facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Nate Orchard from Advanced Window Products. When you live in Utah, your windows do a lot more than let the light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for your local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year round. And installation is done by our own certified in-house crews, never subcontractors. That's why Utah homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Right now, take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 or more windows. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. For 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Utah trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products, built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 801-850-9100 for that $2,500 off, or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Let's go back to the traffic center in Cormac Bone.
Heavier delays are in Utah County, especially on I-15. It starts at 1860 south and reaches all the way up to 1600 north. And that's where that crash is out of traffic and on the right shoulder, but roadways are still wet, so those delays are going to last a little bit longer. We're also seeing some southbound I-15 delays approaching 1600 north in Linden. Northbound around the point of the mountain on I-15, still heavy and slow with those rainier conditions. In Salt Lake County, though, we do have a crash on North 15 just after the south interchange, out of traffic also in that right shoulder, but no delays behind them. Where it is slow is just after the I-8201 interchange approaching 13th south. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and Swinier Wolseth Dermatology is reminding you to take care of your skin. Visit dwolseth.com and schedule your body scan today. dwolseth.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, mostly cloudy. Chance of thunderstorms this afternoon once the rain lets up this morning. You can expect highs in the 60s and a 60% chance of rain. Right now it is 55 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City, raining down at the south end of the valley and in some of Utah County. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Good morning. We've got quite a show lined up today, and part of it will start with where we left off yesterday, which was up in Box Elder County. We talked, Holly, at the end of the show yesterday about the fact that Box Elder County Commission and the residents there were having a meeting at the fairgrounds of Box Elder County because there was such a big interest in the 40,000-acre data center that was being proposed there. The county commission did vote on that, and they voted in favor of it. What that means, we'll find out in just a few minutes, but it's certainly a step in the process. We were talking about a 40,000-acre data center that was going to take a tremendous amount of energy, although there were plans that it would almost supply its own energy.
It'll produce its own energy.
Yeah, produce its own energy. So, a lot of citizens up there, people for and against, and it seemed like there was a little bit of tension in the air.
I think one of the issues that I want to ask our guest about is this idea. It's not just an idea. It's a sentiment that has been widespread, I think, across the state of Utah, that elected officials don't listen to the people in their area. So I want to talk to him about that. But first, I want to get his take on what happened. And this is Commissioner Lee Perry from Box Elder County Commission. Thanks for joining us, Commissioner.
Thank you, Holly and Greg.
It's good to talk to you again, my friend. So I just want to get your perspective about what happened last night.
Okay. Well, I'll start off with, we didn't vote for or against the data center yesterday. That's one of the misnomers that everybody's thinking, well, we voted to approve a data center, which we really didn't. What we did as commissioners is we voted whether or not to join MIDA and put what we feel like were some guardrails in place to protect our citizens and the people in Box Elder County going forward. That's what we felt like happened yesterday in the meeting. And I also want to correct the fact that, yes, it's a 40,000 acre area, but that does not mean it's going to be a 40,000 acre data center by any stretch of the imagination. It's not anywhere near that size. They have bought 40,000 acres of property. They will build a data center somewhere on a much smaller footprint with their energy production, if that's what happens. And then the other parts would be for maybe advanced manufacturing, maybe even some retail on some of these things. That's kind of what MIDA does in different areas. So, yeah.
So let me just follow up then, because certainly we have been confused. What is it that you voted on besides, I mean, you said to put guardrails in. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, for us, the issue is this is all private property that was put under contract and pretty much sold before we were even aware of what was happening. So a private owner had come in, purchased property from owners, they have personal property rights on water as well. And our county is one of the few counties that has a lot of unzoned property, and all of this property is unzoned. So it doesn't have to go through a planning commission, doesn't have to go through zoning. They can walk in with a building permit and a building plan and say, this is what we want. And we as the taxpayers, they pay a fee to have the buildings inspected, but it doesn't cover the cost to go clear out and inspect those buildings and pass off. But if they have everything certified, we'd pretty much have to give them the go-ahead, other than they would probably have to put in a sewer system nonetheless, because it would be too large to have a septic tank system out there. But that's really the only controls the county would have in a situation like this. And we knew that going in. And so MIDA had came to us somewhere along the line. They got approached and they said, we can put some guardrails in place. Like, if what things do you guys want? Well, I said, I want to make sure my citizens aren't going to be burdened with the cost of somebody building a data center in my county. So I didn't want to have the county taxpayers have to pay to have building inspectors go out there and provide law enforcement and fire, and they need to pay for those things. And property taxes may have covered some of that, but the reality of life is our property taxes are probably not significant enough that would have covered all of the necessary needs that they would have had, including building roads and dealing with water and infrastructure. And so MIDA came to us and said, we have a way to put these guardrails in place, dark sky lighting, noise ordinances, having them pay for all the infrastructure, pay for all the necessities of first responders, et cetera. And in return, you as a county will get some different tax increments back that will result in a far greater return than you would get from property taxes if they were to build out there.
I'm looking at a press release purportedly from Box Elder County, Commissioner Perry, that says the Box Elder County Commission today approved a resolution giving consent to the Military Installation Development Authority to create a Stratos project area, which may include a state-of-the-art data center to be built in an unzoned area of western Box Elder County. So if that maybe clears up where we started this.
Right.
And of course, no one assumed it was going to be a 40,000 acre building.
Right.
That'd be huge. But tell us this, Commissioner, where does it go from here? What's the next step in terms of the progress or whatever for this facility?
Well, at this point, obviously MIDA controls as far as permitting and all those kind of things go, but we were very clear about this because we're concerned and we wanted to make sure that, things just didn't go crazy, so to speak. And so we asked DEQ, well, does this mean if we do this resolution, does MIDA take over and does it just wipe out all the rules? And they said no. DEQ still has to go through a process of air quality research. They go through water, saying is there any water issues? Is it any contamination of the water? Again, this is all private water that they're currently operating on. There's no outside water. There's actually no official drinking water because most of this water is used for agriculture purposes that they're going to be using. So we clarified that with the state. The state said, yeah, that's our obligation. That's our role. You don't get to, you guys don't get to insert yourself and say that. It's kind of like in front of a judge. Somebody can come in and plead, well, tell me all the other things, but the judge has to deal with just the facts that he's allowed to deal with. He can't say, well, I want to include all these other things in the case and make my decision based on information they're technically not allowed to make the decision on. And that's kind of what we were feeling as a commission.
So we've already run to the end of our first segment. Can you stay with us for the next segment? Because I still have some more questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. We will be back just after this break.
That was very kind of him to stay because we didn't plan on that. Well, 4 weeks ago, I decided to get on a diet plan. And I know some people said, well, why did you need to do that? That's because they didn't see how tight my pants were, how much I was unable to wear some of my suits. So I got on with SOTA, S-O-T-A. I talked to some of the people here in the studio, and they said it works for me. I thought I'd never tried a diet plan. I did not absolutely want to do pills. I didn't want to do injections. I wanted to do something that was based on food, on nutrition. And I hooked up with SOTA. SOTADietNutrition.com hooked me up. Tomorrow's my 4-week checkup, and I don't know what I will weigh, but I know that after 3 weeks, I had lost 16 pounds. I know I've lost a little more since then, so I can't wait until weigh-in tomorrow when I can see where I am after 4 weeks. It's been a great plan. It's been food only, and I've got a nutritionist. I've got a coach. We've sort of tweaked what I'm eating. My wife is behind it. She's eating with me too, even though she didn't need to lose weight. She said, let's try it. Let's do it together, and it's been a lot of fun. SOTADietNutrition.com, S-O-T-A. Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
You can't always predict what's next, but you can be ready for it in a BMW SUV. The X1 delivers on confident agility and a striking presence that stands out in a crowd. Or you can own the road in the versatile X3 with advanced driving technology like BMW Connected Drive and sporty design cues. The X5 blends performance and elegance with functionality and a commanding presence. And when only the biggest will do, the X7 steps things up with precision-crafted finishes and 3 rows of luxurious seating so there's always space, even for the biggest plans. Every model is engineered with BMW's intelligent all-wheel drive to give you the confidence in any driving condition. So while you can't always predict what's coming, for every road there's an X built to drive it. BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Discover your dream vehicle at BMW of Murray or BMW of Pleasant Grove. BMW Utah. Drive elevated.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good night's sleep.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
Carrier, turn to the experts. A Carrier factory authorized dealer.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place.
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
Where survival.
It's dark now. I have nothing.
Is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion, and that of the sheriff, is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
The new Inside Sources.
Yesterday, as we were preparing for this segment today, Holly and I were talking about getting somebody from the Box Elder County Commission on the line, and she said, well, let's get Lee Perry. I worked with him on the legislature. And I said, well, let's get Lee Perry. I worked with him when he was with the Highway Patrol. So we both have very favorable experiences with you, Lee, and thanks for staying with us for an extra segment.
No, thank you.
Okay, so just some additional questions that I have for you, Commissioner. So you mentioned water would be coming from agricultural water rights that were owned and sold privately. Is that correct? Did I understand you correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
And we actually put guardrails in to say they can't have any more unless the state, again, allows it. It's not up to us, but if the state was to allow it, which according to everybody else says that's not going to happen. So, again, I don't control that.
And maybe you don't know the details, but can you explain how they plan on using this water? Because I understand there's something about recirculation, but I will admit I don't understand it completely for sure.
Yeah, the understanding I have is called an internal loop system. It's kind of like your radiator in your car. You basically put water in your radiator with a little bit of radiator fluid, in this case, propylene glycol, and you basically run it through the system, and that keeps your car from overheating and your engine from blowing up or whatever. So kind of that's a really simple way of describing it, but that is basically what happens is it cools down and keeps the system cool, along with using air, circulated air. They can use air, kind of like major air conditioning unit. So that's why the power comes in to do that, as well as to run the data itself. So data by itself wouldn't take the kind of energy we're talking about. I mean, it would take a significant amount, but by using air cooling and this internal loop system reduces the water consumption and makes things cooler in the process.
Lee, can you tell our listeners, and for my benefit as well, having some familiarity with Box Elder County, you've got Brigham City on one part, Tremont and Garland on another. Where is this land exactly, and what does it look like now? What is it being used for now?
Currently, well, it's kind of a northwest of Tremont. So if you go on Interstate 84, like you're going toward Burley, Idaho, probably about 13 miles roughly before you get to Snowville, or 15 miles before you get to Snowville, there's an exit. And if you got off there, you could go where they want to build the data center. You would go south from there down into a place called Hansel Valley. And it is currently all agriculture. Farmers, ranchers, that's who the landowners are that currently are in the process of put their land under contract to sell or have sold their land. And these folks have historically grown whatever. I mean, there's some pivots down there that they actually do grow crops for cows on, where they actually do water and irrigate. Those are further up above where this is going to be built at. And in fact, one of the ranchers that was sold, he's actually maintaining his water rights to do just that. And they've told him that they're going to lease back the property, they'll buy the property, but lease it back to him to continue to farm and put agriculture on. It's something that happened here in Box Elder County in the 1950s when Thiokol came here to build their rockets. They bought 20,000 plus acres up here and built all their factory out there in Howell Valley. And the farmers who sold it to them continue to raise their cattle and grow certain products on Thiokol's property.
So a follow-up question for you, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. It feels like this was, to me, it feels like this was really rushed, and I understand even you as a commission didn't get information as it was beginning the process, but does this feel like an unusually rushed process?
Yeah, Holly, I mean, you and I were in the legislature together, and for a 45-day session is fast, and
Sure.
This felt like something like that. And again, this was one of those things where all the factors came together, and that's why even, people wanted us. There are certain individuals that would have loved to have us vote on it early on, within a week or two of getting the information. I just couldn't do it. I had to gather more information, get more, and we had to make sure we had public input. People say we didn't get public input, but we did. We had an open and public meeting on the 22nd of April when we took public input. We had a follow-up meeting, and at that meeting, we started taking emails, and we created a website, said, let's give us your public comment. We took in excess of 2,500 public comments. About 200, I think as of yesterday, it was like 262 were Box Elder County residents. And we read those. We took those under advisement. Many of them, the concerns they had, totally understand, but outside the purview of what we were allowed to look at. Like I said, giving the example of a judge, people can say a lot of things that they want to say, but sometimes the judge or the jury is not allowed to look at certain evidence. And we heard it. We're concerned about it the same way they are. But it boiled down to what can happen. This is private property, not zoned. Can they do what they want to do? Yeah, pretty much they can. There's very little we could do to control that. And so we could say, well, the heck with it, let's let it happen. They do it. We get some property taxes back from them, but probably would end up it probably would have ended up, I would believe that if they'd done everything, it would have cost the taxpayers money in the long run, even with property tax values being what they were and what we could put on there. Because, again, the legislature took away the ability to charge personal property on data centers. So maybe we would have been able to recoup our cost if that had been there, but it wasn't. And so really we felt like we were between a choice of put some guardrails in place and try to protect the citizens of Box Elder County, or do you just let it happen? And that's really what the vote would have come down to. So that's why we chose to go with this resolution to work with MITA.
Lee, can you tell us sort of the long-range plans for this area? It almost looks like from the press release that Box Elder County indicated yesterday that there may be other structures on the development besides just the data center, which would be big, but like perhaps manufacturing, retail, things like that. Is that going to be like a little village up there?
Yeah, our understanding is, one of the things we did actually is we see one of the guardrails we put in place is we don't want them to put residential housing there because I don't want to force our school district to have to go out there and bus children back and forth and have that be an incurred expense upon the taxpayers. So we just said no residential homes up there. But they could build on this property with MITA being the lead on this thing. They would be, you have the power manufacturing, the cooling, the data center. Then perhaps on some of the other property, you'd build some advanced manufacturing that would benefit the data center, most likely, or military infrastructure, one of the two, that could be built on some of this other land. They could put solar panels on this land to generate energy. They could find other mechanisms to generate energy that could be put there. And then, of course, there is a possibility for some retail space that would be right off the interstate. That would be maybe to design a hotel for people who are coming there to visit or to work there. But we actually put some guardrails there as well, saying you can't build any of this until you've done the energy and got like sewer, water, all those things in place. So again, those were things that we were saying, I don't want to just let them go out there, buy this land, because somebody could go out and develop the land and we would really struggle to make sure we had the infrastructure and the ability to take care of it without burdening the taxpayers.
Lee, we're going to run out of time here, but I do have a couple of questions. One is, this is from a texter. What about Native American graves that are in that area? And then related to that kind of is, what is the time frame we're looking at here?
Well, the time frame is, like I said, they can break ground, but they're still going to have to get permits through DEQ. They're going to have a certain DEQ is going to do a study on the air quality, all those kind of things. Water quality will probably be involved. So those are going to take some time. I think getting permits for all those things, that's something they're going to have to work themselves through. As far as the Native American graves, my understanding is I've heard about that, and that is all, from what I understand, those are all on BLM ground. But certainly if they come across Native American graves as they're going through this process or other artifacts, it may delay their project because they don't get to just ignore that kind of thing. And so they will have to work with the state if they encounter something while they're doing this on that 40,000 acres. But again, these 40,000 acres were all privately owned by people, and they could have gone out and built houses or anything else they wanted out there. They just chose to sold to somebody else that's choosing to build something out there that some of us may or may not agree with.
I'm seeing one other thing, Lee, that could be a huge benefit for the county, and that this project could very well bring as many as 2,000 jobs. I mean, that's a huge addition to what your current workforce is up there.
It certainly could. It could bring as many jobs as Northrop Grumman or Thiokol did at the time, or is right now. And these are not low-paying jobs; these are high-paying jobs. So there is an economic benefit. I won't deny that. And that's not my motivating factor. Our motivating factor has nothing to do with that. It's strictly protecting the county taxpayers, the county citizens, from not having something just run over the top of them. Money is not a concern. It's a nice thing to have in government, but it's not something we need. I mean, we would rather go without that if it's a detriment to our county.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Commissioner. That was Commissioner Lee Perry from Box Elder County on the vote that happened last night. So really interesting conversation, and I learned a lot. So one of the reasons that I thought that it was, I knew it wasn't going to cover 40,000 acres, but one of the reasons I thought it was really only the data center push was because of the Shark Tank guy who is pushing this project and saying, we have this remarkable opportunity and we're doing it in record time. And so part of it is social media messaging. I need to be more careful.
Yep. Yeah. And it hasn't moved as quickly as we thought. for us in the media, we had heard about it sort of recently, and then the county commission voted on it. So we'll follow up with that, and really very, very kind of Lee Perry, the commissioner up there, to stay with us for 2 segments. When we come back, the vast majority of Utahns are at least somewhat concerned about the Iran war's impact on the economy. Well, actually, 80%. We'll go into depth on that when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. It's going to cost more to park at the Salt Lake City International Airport. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Starting in July, it will cost $45 a day to park at the airport. That's an increase of about $5. It will also cost an additional $2 to park in the economy lot. Airport officials say they're full more frequently. The price increase also coincides with the 2027 budget, where it's expected to generate a 7% increase in revenue, accounting for over 40% of the airport's estimated concession revenue. Airport officials are also promoting UTA's tracks and other services, saying there are other great ways to avoid the parking lot and get to the airport. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Pentagon says the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran is holding despite Iranian threats and small-scale attacks.
The Joint Chiefs Chairman says since the fragile truce began last month, Iran has fired at U.S. forces more than 10 times. But General Dan Kane says those strikes have not been significant enough to break the ceasefire.
All below the threshold of restarting major combat operations at this point.
In addition to the ongoing blockade of ships heading to or from Iranian ports, the U.S. military is now undertaking what officials call Project Freedom, an effort to ensure safe passage of commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Your money at this moment, the Dow up 276 points to 49,216. Coming up, the rain has eased up in some spots in the Salt Lake Valley that was getting rained on earlier, but now it looks like Utah County's dealing with some of it. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The bridge loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, equal housing lender.
Can you hear it? That's the sound of nature waking up in Box Elder County. Spring has sprung, and the first visitors are already here. From grebes to geese, Bear River Bird Refuge is alive with the sound of thousands of wings. And it's not just the birds who are invited. There's plenty for you to enjoy. Experience the world-class minerals at Crystal Hot Springs. Stand on the spot where the railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation at Golden Spike National Historic Park. Check out the jaw-dropping murals up and down Tremonton's charming Main Street. The list goes on and on. Hungry? From fine dining to classic comfort food, Box Elder County has something that's sure to hit the spot. In Box Elder County, the air is fresher, the sky is wider, and spring is in full bloom. Come wake up your senses and plan your spring escape at visitboxeldercounty.com. Produced in partnership with the Utah Office of Tourism.
If you want unlimited talk, text, and data on a super fast network, Big Wireless will sell it to you right now for as little as $70 a month. Or you can buy it from Pure Talk for half of that. I'm talking about unlimited talk, text, and data for just $34.99 a month. But wait, there's more. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be switching to an American wireless company that's committed to keeping 100% of its customer service in this country. I appreciate that. In fact, that's why I switched. I also appreciate the way they support our vets and our skilled workforce. Dial pound 250, say micro, and get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data for just $34.99 a month. That's pound 250 micro. Stop paying twice what you need to pay for the service you want and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Looks like the freeway having some issues in Utah County, Cormac.
Yeah, that's right, Andy, especially southbound I-15. Just before Center Street, there's a crash blocking. It looks like three center lanes there. And they are creating some pretty heavy delays that are going to reach.
Provo, right?
Yeah, Provo, that's right. And that's reaching back toward University Parkway. And northbound I-15, just a little slow in that same stretch as drivers look over the barrier to see it. Also, northbound I-15 is slow from 800 north to 1600 north behind that crash that we had earlier. Now, they are out of traffic and in the right shoulder. And we've got in the final stages of cleanup there, there's a car on a tow truck. And northbound I-15, as you come down the hill from Point of the Mountain, just after 146 South, also a crash there in that right shoulder as well, so just a touch of delays there. Two Brothers Mattress. Prices don't get lower than the Memorial Day sale on all Serta mattresses. Visit one of their 5 locally owned stores or visit twobrothersmattress.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather forecast today, mostly cloudy, slight chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. They've eased up at least for now in the Salt Lake Valley, but still coming down in Utah County. Expect highs in the 60s today, 66 maybe, and a 60% chance of rain. Right now, it's already 55 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the on-again, off-again conflict with Iran over the Strait of Hormuz has caused a lot of families, a lot of people concern about what it's doing to the economy. We had talked a while ago about the fact that there was a ceasefire in place. That seems to have been lifted, or at least it seems to have been expired. There's been some active military conflicts there just within the last few days. Iran threatened to attack U.S. ships. President Trump threatened to attack some Iranian ports. So it seems to be continuing. The stock market, Holly, is great. It's almost in record territory all the time. But other factors that weigh heavily on families, such as the price of goods, such as the price of gas, are really bad right now.
One of the things I think that is really interesting about a brand new poll just done by the Deseret News and the Hinckley Institute of Politics is that 80% of Utahns say they're at least somewhat concerned about Iran's effect on the U.S. economy. That's 80%, 8 in 10.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people. We're talking gas prices, grocery prices, and more. And I think that number is, A, really telling, and B, for elected officials, they should really be paying attention because do you remember it was the Bill Clinton advisor, I think it was Stephanopoulos. It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right? I mean, look, people are really worried about this.
Yeah, and you're right. 80% of Utahns at least somewhat concerned. 51% say they are very concerned. I mean, those are some significant numbers that should have the administration interested, should have everybody's attention, especially with midterms coming up, because it is the economy. It is something that's very important when people go to the ballot box.
So one of the things that this poll did is they polled in Utah, but they also polled nationally, and we're slightly more worried in Utah. It's 80% here, 79% nationally, but they asked people to break it down too and identify their top worries. You can probably guess.
Yeah, gas, number one.
It was actually number two.
Oh.
Number one is the rising cost of goods, so inflation. Right?
Oh, I'm looking at it wrong. You're right. Higher gas prices, 42%.
Yeah.
Rising cost of goods was 46%
Yeah.
in Utah. Nationally, those numbers were almost tracked identically. So
Yeah.
we weren't far off on any of the numbers here. But those are the two things. Those were by far and away the two big ticket items: goods and gas.
Yeah, by far, right? And then you look at job security, stock market investments, interest rates, and just tiny single-digit percentages, right? So I think over the last 6 months, as Utah has been tracking this, Deseret News and Hinckley Institute of Politics have been tracking these numbers. They've been asking people about their financial well-being. Are you somewhat worse off, much worse off, about the same, better, or much better? And 37% are 37% of Utah participants, 41% of national participants say that they're worse off, 24% say they're better off. So interesting, right? But they also asked how the war in Iran has impacted the price of goods. And I'm telling you, people, like, it is, let's see, let me do the math. It's 87% say they think the war in Iran has increased prices.
Yeah, of goods and gas again, right? I mean, and it has. I mean, there's no question about it in terms of gasoline when you think about how oil prices are.
I'm just saying that consumers are recognizing that as well, and they're saying that they're putting the blame squarely on the war in Iran.
Yeah, as opposed to what we would have talked about a month or so ago, tariffs,
right,
things like that, and saying that those have been a problem. But now you say, has the war? You're right, impacted these things, and a huge percentage of people are saying, yep, it has.
So one of the issues too is how do these economic conditions affect those who help people in need? So think about like the food bank, right? How are they impacted? Well, you can probably guess, right? Is the Utah Food Bank and CEO Jeanette Bott, we've had her on multiple times. She said her organization is really feeling the impacts. And so remember the food bank, when we've talked about the food bank, they have a distribution system where they take their trucks and they go around the state delivering some of the food that comes into their warehouse in Salt Lake City. Well, their trucks drive about 800,000 miles a year. And she's telling the Deseret News she doesn't really know how to eliminate the steps to distribute food, right? They're looking for efficiencies. They're looking at staffing, all of those kinds of things, but they've got to get the food to where the people live. And that takes gas and that costs money.
Yeah. It was an interesting poll. And it's interesting that they polled Utah voters and United States voters, although when you look at virtually every category, they track very closely.
So closely.
Yeah. People were asked, look where you were 6 months ago and where you are today. Are you better or worse off than you were 6 months ago? 41% say they're worse off.
Yeah.
Only 24% say they're better off, and then the rest are about the same. So a plurality, I guess, of people are really claiming that they're worse off than they were 6 months ago as the result of the war.
Yeah, and I think, we talk about gas prices. They were up 30 cents last week per gallon, right? Oil prices are still well over $100 a barrel right now. At least they were this morning when I came into work. They were $114 a barrel. So look, gas prices have been skyrocketing, but there's also another Deseret News article about the impact of grocery store prices, that those are going to see a real increase because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
It's not something you think about, the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, you really the name
didn't really
right.
Before.
We didn't realize that little 21-mile strip has so much of the world's economy running through it, and that a blockade of that by either us or Iran or whatever's going on, it depends on who you're listening to, who's plugged it up. But it seems like the Iranians are still hoping for something, and they're keeping it restricted, and the United States is there going, hey, let's get it open, but we just don't have an agreement on how that's going to happen. And the world economy is being affected. Other big countries, European countries that rely on that as a source of goods and oil, are getting upset. China, which relies on that, is upset. And people are having to go to different resources to get what normally would have gone through that area.
So just really quickly, earlier we had a texter ask, is it time for the governor to temporarily suspend the state gas tax? And I would say that the Utah legislature did pass a gas tax holiday that begins in July. It goes 6 months, and it takes, I think, 6 cents a gallon off of the price of gas. But when you go up 30 cents in 1 week, I mean, you're barely
so that
going to
will
notice.
happen this year?
That will happen. That bill did pass. It goes into effect July 1. But like I said, that 6 cents before the war really heated up, it sounded like it could make a difference, and now it's like, well, it'll be lost in the round-off largely, I think. All right, so we do want to hear from you. So we know that 4 out of 5 Utahns say they're worried about the state and future of the economy thanks to the Iran war. And I want to know if our listeners think those concerns are warranted. Are you concerned? You can call us at 801-575-TALK or 801-575-8255 if you need the numbers, or send us a text at 57500. And when we come back after the break, we'll hear from you.
You have chirping smoke detectors? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you've ever experienced chirping smoke detectors, you already know how annoying it can be. A great first step to try and stop the chirping is to change the batteries. If the chirping continues, it's possible that your smoke detector has gone bad. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even realize that manufacturers recommend replacing the smoke detector altogether after 10 years. If you remove the smoke detector from the wall, on the back you should find a date of when it was made. Do a little math and you'll know how old it is. Now, Any Hour Services knows being a homeowner means you've got a list a mile long of things to do around the house, and check my electrical system probably isn't one of them. That's why we've put together this radio special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive inspection of your electrical system that includes testing those smoke detectors and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. Call Any Hour Services to schedule at 801-443-7300. 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, it's never good news. Keep in mind, it's not just you.
I owed roughly $34,000.
$61,000. When the IRS first contacted me, I was horrified.
When they start hounding you and harassing you and assaulting you.
Don't face the IRS alone. With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
From what I got told was being done in a matter of 2 years, he had done in a matter of like 48 hours.
It's a great thing to have the IRS off your back.
We have reduced our tax liability by over $42,000.
Once I signed on with Jordan, I never talked to the IRS again.
It changed our lives.
You need someone to fight for you. Visit endtaxworry.com and get relief today. Let's solve your tax problems now. Visit endtaxworry.com. That's endtaxworry.com.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Spring is here, and that means pool time is here. No one makes it easier to have a pool in your backyard than Arctic Spas. We just need 2 days, and you can swim for exercise or enjoy family fun. Arctic Spas all-weather pools continue to be fun all year round versus a regular pool which you can only use during the summer. We make it easy with maintenance-free filters, automatic natural salt water, and automatic pH control. No one wants to spend their time taking care of their pool. We just want to enjoy it, and that is what Water Care Automation is all about. If you're looking for a pool that is easy to install, easy to maintain, easy on the wallet, and you can use it year-round, look no further than Arctic Spas All-Weather Pools. For more information, check us out at arcticspasutah.com or one of our 3 stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Drivers who switch their home and auto with Progressive could save money and time. Other things try to do this, but they really don't. Like the touchscreen at fast food places. It's not like you save time because it takes you longer to use a touchscreen than, I don't know, someone who works there. And another thing, you'd think it would save money because they're not paying a cashier, right? But no, same price. Also, why is there an option to tip? Who am I tipping? Exactly. Anyway, even if you can't save money and time with some things, you could with a Progressive Home and Auto Bundle. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states or situations.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Got any markdowns on brakes?
We mark Duralast brake pads down to free.
Free Duralast brake pads?
When you buy 2 rotors.
Can I get Duralast Gold pads for free?
With 2 Duralast Gold rotors, and there's a lifetime warranty on brake pads.
That's a huge markdown for so many miles.
Save on brakes and more during Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Does your mom dream of asphalt? Maybe not. She does dream of things done right. Whether you park it, stripe it, or pave it, GoPave's got your blacktop covered. Visit GoPaveUtah.com.
Inside Sources.
Well, a full 4 out of 5 Utahns, that's 80%, say they're worried about the state and the future of the economy thanks to the war in Iran. Are those concerns warranted, and are you concerned? Give us a call at 801-575-TALK. That's 801-575-8255. Or send us a text at 57500. Patrick DeHaan, head of the petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy, says gas prices will continue to go up as long as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed by Iran.
We could be seeing a national average rise to $4.55 to $4.75 by the time Memorial Day rolls around. If the strait remains closed, into the month of June, I think by July 4, we'll be at all-time record highs.
So it's one of the I think issues that people are concerned about, and we do have a caller on the line. So we have Ed from Sandy. Thanks for joining us, Ed.
Good morning to you. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
A little bit earlier today, you were talking about the food bank and the programs that they have to distribute their food.
Yes, sir.
And our Lutheran Church in Sandy cooperates with the food bank, and 2 Saturdays a month, they show up with a truckload of food, and we provide the volunteers, and we distribute the food out to the people that come through. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and over the years, we've averaged about 180 families a week.
Are you seeing that change? Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Until about a couple of months ago, this number of families that come through has dropped down to about 140 to 150. And we're hypothesizing that one of the reasons is they have a choice whether to buy baby food or to buy gasoline.
That is quite the choice.
Thanks for that. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, and Jeanette said the same thing. Similarly, people are having to choose between feeding their families and turning the heat on, for example, or feeding their families and getting medication, right? So people are really concerned.
President Trump's actually taking some questions right now and talking about an update on the war in Iran. Let's break away to that right now.
And they should wave. They're very proud. Maybe you won't see a white flag, but essentially that's already what they are. They should wave the white flag of surrender. In hockey, they say uncle, right? When are they gonna cry uncle? But and they have another expression. If this were a fight, they would stop it. But we have to go out and we have to do it, and it's very sad to see. Even shooting those boats, they've got 3-4 guys. They got a little machine gun in front. They're shooting at one of our ships that's meant for it. It bounces. They don't even know they're being shot at. And then they take it out with an Apache helicopter in about 2 seconds. They go, Apache ship, northwest 10 degrees. Turns around, boom. I don't like that, You lose people. All these people, it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. One thing we have the greatest military in the world. I built it because I built it in my first term. I didn't think I'd be using it, at least so much in my second term. but we have the greatest military, the best equipment in the world. We had 111 missiles shot at one of our assets, one of the aircraft carriers, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Think of this, 111 sophisticated missiles shot at one of our aircraft carriers.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of update from the president about the fact that he really feels like the Iranian government is on its knees right now and should be coming to the table fairly soon. We've heard that before. It may be true. We don't know what's going on in Iran. They seem as entrenched as ever, even though their economy may be on its heels.
And we talked yesterday about a BBC article about people in Iran saying that the current regime is entrenched and that they feel like things are getting worse, actually, and that the current regime doesn't have really any intention of waving the white flag. So it's interesting that he said, before we dipped in, that gas prices were going to come down. Everybody expects that they will at some point. But he said that yesterday as well. He was meeting with small businesses, and he was trying to downplay the worries that people are having about the economic impacts, right? So we do have a texter who told us that basically he supports the war in Iran, and this is basically the price that we pay for preventing them from taking us out as a country.
And that was a question that we wanted to hear. Is this the price of freedom? Is it the price of having some security that Iran is not building a nuclear device that could be pointed at the United States? And some people feel like it's something you have to do. Others feel like, hey, we've already obliterated their nuclear arsenal, back to the Stone Age. Why do we have to keep doing that? So I think there's good argument made for both sides. I don't know that we can trust anything that Iran is telling us about their nuclear arsenal, and so maybe we had no choice.
I think just going back to the economic impacts, I had a conversation just this morning about growing a garden this year. And we already know that the peaches have been taken out and the apples and the cherries. And so I won't be canning those, right? Because I usually can in the summer. But I am going to grow a garden, and I love gardening, but I feel like it's important anyway. But it's we just have a lot of things to worry about right now, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and of course the fruit crop wasn't related to the war. It was related
to
it
wasn't. That was related to weather.
To the weather, because we had that unseasonably warm end of winter, and the blossoms all came out, and then we had that freeze a week or two ago, and it just destroyed a lot of crops around the northern part of the state.
But there is sticker shock that is coming to grocery stores, and again, I told you this was a Deseret News article, and they are predicting, this is looking at a new analysis that predicts that the Iran war will impact energy prices that will trickle down to impacting grocery stores. So we just heard the food bank has to spend more money on gas to get food around the state. Well, it's the same thing when you get your food crop from California or from Mexico or wherever it is you get it from. Those grocery prices are going to go up. And so this is a professor of Purdue, by the way, and he is director of the Purdue Farm Policy Study Group. And they have another assistant professor of macroeconomics who just said this is why. Diesel fuel is through the roof. That essentially powers every truck that moves food from farm to processor, processor to warehouse, warehouse to retail. Petrochemicals, we know that makes up feedstock for plastic wrap, film, bottles, trays, containers. Refrigeration and food processing, which is energy intensive. All of those translate into higher prices at the grocery store.
You know what I bought 2 weeks ago? A diesel. I've never had one.
Maybe poor timing.
Never had
on your
a diesel
part.
in my life, and I bought one 2 weeks ago, and boy, did I pay for that.
So anyway, those are concerns I think that people are having, and then we have another texter that just has a comment about the president that it's so sad that we started a war and Iran refuses to surrender. So
yeah,
that's another comment. So anyway, I just think that we know that inflation was up in March. It hit an annual rate of 3.5%, and we know that there is likely to be more coming because fuel costs are at a 4-year high.
It was interesting. I thought gas. That's what everyone's concerned about, and it's huge. But goods, exceeded everyone's trouble list. It was more than gasoline because gas you can see. I mean, you can drive down the street and you can see those numbers, boom, 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 going up all the time. And I guess if you're going into the grocery store and you're paying attention, you can see that as well. But like what somebody said earlier, you got to make a decision between gas and groceries.
Yeah.
And usually groceries win out because you got to feed your family, and so that hurts a little more when those numbers are rising.
And we had a conversation similar to this last year when we were talking about tariffs, but it impacts anything that has to be transported. So if you're looking at getting new furniture, if you're looking at clothing, all of those things that have to be transported, eventually we're going to start to see those prices go up as long as this war continues and the strait stays open. At least we know that both sides are very conscious of what's going on and very alert, and they're talking, maybe not to each other, but it seems to be on the top of everybody's tongue. So I think something's got to happen in the next couple of weeks with this war. One of the countries got to blink. When we come back, did cell phone bans really work? New research shows that test scores and attendance rates didn't really improve when cell phone bans came into play. But there are some other benefits that maybe we're not looking at. Stay with us. We'll talk about that.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A former USA climbing coach accused of possessing and distributing child sex abuse material here in Utah has officially been charged with 13 felonies. Court documents say Matthew Madison worked directly with children and has been involved in the distribution of abuse materials since 2024. He was placed on unpaid leave after being arrested last week. The vast majority of Utahns in a new poll say they are worried about inflation and gas prices because of the war in Iran. The new poll from the Deseret News and the Hinckley Institute of Politics shows 8 out of 10 Utahns are concerned about the war's impact on the economy, with nearly 9 out of 10 saying they're most concerned about its impact on inflation or gas prices. More than 40% of Utahns say they're doing worse financially now than they were before the war began. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Pentagon says the ceasefire with Iran remains in place even after Iran fired missiles and drones at the UEA and attacked several more ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Here's General Dan Kane.
Since the ceasefire was announced, Iran has fired at commercial vessels 9 times and seized 2 container ships. And they've attacked U.S. forces more than 10 times, all below the threshold of restarting major combat operations at this point.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says the U.S. blockade of Iranian ships remains in place, but several cargo ships from other countries safely made it through the strait today. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 247 points to 49,189. Coming up, rain's pounding Provo right now. We'll check weather and traffic next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You're the turf whisperer, the grass-cutting guru. Dandelions don't stand a chance on your watch. When it comes to your lawn, power moves are the only moves you make. That's why you just applied IFA's Weed and Feed for strong, dark green turf without a weed in sight. IFA's Weed and Feed. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move.
Higher taxes, soaring inflation, record low interest rates, and the skyrocketing cost of healthcare. The list goes on. Retiring successfully today is a lot more complicated than ever before. Learn how you can tackle the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement today. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio. It's this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 1027.
For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need to get the job done. With fast delivery you can depend on and access to technical product experts ready to help you meet any challenge. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by.
Support comes from Amazon Business. You can't rely on guesswork to run your business. With Smart Business Buying, innovative AI tools optimize your purchasing experience, paired with delivery options built for business. Empower your team today. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
This is TV's Dr. Travis Stork for Eggland's Best Eggs. Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste, plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best, with more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, organic, free-range, and pasture-raised. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
The podcast, Cold, has gone deep on these kinds of stories.
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
Clearly, something happened on that couch because he cleaned it.
Find and follow Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. Here's Cormac Bone.
The wet roads not letting up in Provo. Southbound I-15 seeing some pretty heavy delays approaching Center Street, and that's due to a crash that is blocking the right shoulder. Looks like they may have a car. Oh, no, just a crash blocking the right shoulder. And on northbound I-15, the crash really right just over the barrier at the same place on North 15 just after Center Street. They are blocking the right lane and shoulder there, trying to get a car onto a tow truck there. Otherwise, your roadway's looking pretty okay, especially in Salt Lake County. No major delays with the drier roads, just a little bit of northbound I-15 slowdowns after 3300 south. At UTA, it's never just a ride from point A to point B. They move independence, they move purpose, they move memories, they move what matters, you. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, highs in the mid-60s. The rainstorms will continue through the evening. Tomorrow, it'll be mostly sunny with a high of 63 degrees. Right now, it's 54 and raining along the Wasatch Front in different spots. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, banning cell phones in schools has become all the rage here in Utah and, of course, across the country. But is it actually helping students improve? New data from the National Bureau of Economic Research shows that test scores haven't really improved. Mental health hasn't really been boosted, and students really aren't paying more attention in class. But there may be other things like emotional intelligence and social interaction that may be improving.
So one of the things that's really interesting, and this study was reported on by the Washington Post, and elsewhere. But one of the things that was interesting to me is the very first question that people ask, well, has it been long enough? Well, the answer is in the study, they go back as far as 2018 through 2025 and have 41,000 schools that they were surveying. So we have with us on the line Mike Dubusky, ABC Tech reporter, to help us break down information about the study. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mike.
Yeah, great to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit more about this study? Because, you know, the headline of banning cell phones doesn't improve student performance is pretty grabbing, I'll have to say.
Yeah, runs a little counter to maybe what a lot of people kind of assumed about how cell phone bans were supposed to work or what they were aimed at trying to address in schools. As you guys mentioned, this comes from the National Bureau of Economic Research. They surveyed over 40,000 schools in the last few years. Really, as these cell phone bans started to come into effect, guys, I was reading about this and thinking back to my own high school experience where it was like revolutionary to allow phones in schools. That was kind of where we were coming from, about 15 years ago or so. But at this point now, it seems like the tides have turned. This study did find a few interesting things. As you guys mentioned, there was not a ton of change when it comes to things like student attendance, teachers reporting whether kids are paying attention in class. There was not really a ton of change there. And the big headline headline-grabbing stat was that there was consistently close to zero effect on test scores. However, they also looked at things like disciplinary incidents, that is to say, kids getting in trouble for one reason or another. They actually found that school suspensions went up in the year following the implementation of a phone ban. So they take the phones away. Kids are, riled up by the changes in rules, are maybe acting out in one way or another. But after that first year, disciplinary action actually started to trend downward again. So there was this big disruption, and then kids eventually got used to it, which kind of underscores the fact that this is still pretty early data. The researchers here said that there is the possibility that over a longer period of time, there could be larger impacts here that we're not seeing. But until then, we just don't know.
So, Mike, one thing that I didn't appreciate until I got into the weeds of it a little bit and what you said just a minute ago. So we've only had the cell phone ban here in Utah for a year. So yeah. I thought the same thing, which was, hey, what do we know after a year? But some schools, and you mentioned that there were some 41,000 pulled, have had cell phone bans in place since 2018. So there is some empirical data that's pretty valuable at this point.
Right. And this is a very large study, right? Like this is 41,000 schools. It takes place over the course of 7 years. Like that's encompassing quite a lot of, high school and middle school experience as it applies to this. And what's more, guys, this is also supported by other smaller studies that we've seen around the world, most notably in the UK recently. And in spite of this data, we are still seeing kind of wide scale bipartisan efforts to implement these phone bans in schools, not just here in the U.S., but in Europe as well. France just passed major legislation to that effect, South Korea as well. So, it is sort of legislation and maybe feeling kind of butting up against some of the hard data. But again, the data does come with some caveats, right? Like there is the potential that, as advocates of, technology in schools have said, phones can do a lot of good, but they can also do a lot of bad, right? They cut both ways. And that might show up in the data as things aren't moving that much, when in fact things are moving quite dramatically. It's just in kind of opposite directions at the same time.
So one of my questions, Mike, is what about the other things? So the anecdotal evidence that I keep hearing is, kids are talking more to each other. There's more social interaction. They're spending time at lunch having conversations rather than glued to their phones. So that seems to be a positive, and as well, maybe some mental health benefits. Does this study address any of those? Yeah, so mental well-being is how this study sort of wraps up the general feeling that younger people are having as it applies to these phone bans. And they do say that, there are slight upticks in that over time as it applies to these cell phone bans, but it's not like a dramatic, huge increase or anything like that. The anecdotal evidence here is significant, guys. Again, that this is hard stuff to measure in data, in numbers, but kids, talking to each other more at lunch. How do you put that into a large data sample, right? And how do you represent that? But it is clearly happening, right? We're hearing multiple reports of that, in these schools where, the phones have been taken away. So I don't think that's worth overlooking. I think that's an important piece of this that just might not necessarily be represented in the data.
Do we have any indication, Mike, how educators, how teachers feel about the phone ban, notwithstanding test scores and attendance and whatnot? Are they in favor of keeping it in place?
So not in this particular data necessarily, but, you can imagine that teachers across the country feel largely the same that kids do, right? They're complex. They live this every day, and they have, varied opinions on it. Certainly a lot of the anecdotal evidence that we're talking about, right? Kids talking more at lunch or, hanging out during break periods and, being more active outside or something like that. That comes from school administrators, and that comes from teachers by and large, to a degree parents as well. So, that does seem to indicate that there is support for something like this at the teacher level. You can imagine it does make their jobs a little bit easier, but, that is, again, not something that was necessarily looked at in this particular study.
Okay, one other question from me. Are there any recommendations? I'm scanning through the study, but it is a long one.
It is.
Are there recommendations on what should be done instead? Or
not that I have read necessarily. No, this is just kind of looking at the short term kind of implementation of these bans that they were looking at. That again, there could be more study to be done here, and indeed you would expect that to happen as more and more researchers start to pay attention to this. But what to be done instead? I think really what the big takeaway from this study, guys, is that this is a complex issue, right? And we've heard this from detractors of anti-cell phone, legislation and policy, saying that, effectively that's a blanket solution to a very nuanced problem. And it seems like that is being borne out in the data, that it's actually not having a huge effect on some of these problems that we're trying to address, kids' test scores, kids' attention levels, kids' attendance, and what have you. And that, further study is needed in order to better understand the nature of those problems, because it's pretty clear, I think, from the data that we're able to look at, that if it is the phones, it's certainly not just the phones. And that's an important point to I think, marinate on.
And last question in less than a minute here, Mike. The study certainly doesn't say cell phone bans have been a failure. I mean,
no, of course.
We probably would want to continue cell phone bans as an overall consideration from what we've learned.
Well, again, I think it goes back to this idea of how comprehensive of this data do we want it to be? This is a couple years. It is a lot of schools, certainly, but if it's actually not solving the problem, then what's the point of this? And again, advocates of this technology would say hey, cell phones can actually do a lot of good as well, right? And they can help connect people, they can help coordinate pick up and drop off, and all that type of stuff, little stuff, does go a long way as it applies to kind of people's general well-being at school. But of course, it's a double-edged sword, and that's what makes this such a complex topic to talk about.
All right. Thanks so much. That was Mike Dubusky, ABC's tech reporter. And when we come back, if cell phones aren't the problem, according to the study, what is the problem and how do we fix it? I want to hear from you. 57500. Text us and we'll take your advice.
So the 60s hit me pretty hard. When I turned 60, I realized that I couldn't maintain my weight the same way I could in my 30s, 40s, and 50s, and I have no idea why. I just started gaining weight, and it wasn't just a little bit of weight. It got very, very close to, I'll have to admit, 30 pounds. So I thought I need to do something about this because whatever I'm doing is not working. I contacted SOTA, S-O-T-A, Diet Nutrition, and said, help. See what you can do. I don't want to get on any sort of pills or injections or anything like that. Can you do something that just is diet oriented? And they did. They gave me a nutrition coach and a coach to help me just get myself motivated for this. And I went on the plan. After 21 days, I had lost 16 pounds. Tomorrow marks 28 days. I can't wait till I weigh myself again because I think I've lost a little more than 16 pounds. A little, everybody gains and loses according to their own following the program, but I've lost a lot. I've been very happy with the program, and I'm going to continue it. My wife's on board, too. It's worked out well for us. SOTA, S-O-T-A, Diet and Nutrition. Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And let's face it, it's time to update the look of your home's exterior. When was that thing built? In the 50s, 70s, 90s, the 2000s? Well, it's looking like it. Faded siding, drafty windows, leaky gutters. It's time to take action now. RGS Exteriors has been taking Utah homes from drab to fab for over 5 generations. We only use the highest quality materials, like James Hardy siding and gutter topper gutter covers. You will be blown away by how much different and better and awesome your house can look. Your neighbors will be jealous, your home value will go up, and most of all, you're going to love it. Everything we do comes with our industry-leading 10-year everything guarantee, so you can sleep like a baby, knowing if anything goes wrong, you're 100% covered. For a free estimate on your gutters, windows, siding, or anything on your outside of your home, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriorsutah.com. That's rgsexteriorsutah.com.
It's the time of year when so many wonderful things are happening. First of all, we've got Mother's Day just around the corner. We also have a lot of engagement activities, even some early spring weddings. And of course, we have graduations and so much more. It's time to make your reservations at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Either location, right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City. If you're going to be up in the mountains, they're right there, Hotel Park City, with the very best meal you have ever had. It awaits you at either locations. Now, of course, I love to talk about the steaks. The ribeye is my absolute favorite. Each and every steak is cooked to perfection. But of course, there are other wonderful entrees as well, whether it be seafood or poultry or a specialty dish. It is time. Make your reservations for those special occasions that are just around the corner at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, heart of downtown Salt Lake City or Hotel Park City.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life's sleep.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. anyhourservices.com.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. With honest conversations that let them know what we expect. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be shared with friends or family. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So before the break, we talked about research that shows cell phone bans in schools are actually not helping test scores and mental health to improve. So what will? We asked for our listeners to give us some Facebook comments, and I just want to read a few here. Becky says this: research tells us most students miss questions on tests because of reading errors. Students are not good readers. Students need to read every day. Replace phones with books each day. Brilliant. Roscoe says parent involvement and the strong community, which are becoming more rare. Good point.
I think, too, right, one of the things that I saw consistently is people are saying, like you said, gosh, it hasn't been in place long enough for us to actually know. But Utah's not the only place, right? So there are multiple states around the country now, and going back to 2018. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, one of the things that's a repeated message in our Facebook comments is that they need to do reading and parents need to be involved. Yeah.
Reading and books are in almost every one of these.
So we would be happy to hear from our listeners. If you want to text us, what is the key, do you think, to helping test scores and mental health improve if it's not cell phone bans, which, by the way, I understand is countercultural.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So I wanted to share a few others, if that's okay. So one of them is people are saying just overall reducing technology. So everything's on the computer now. So what Maddie is saying is we need an overall reduction, not just a cell phone ban, but maybe getting away from the over-reliance on tech in the classroom right now.
Right, yeah. And people are concerned, parents are concerned about just the whole cell phone usage, take kids away from what they should be doing. And somebody, Kathy says, make them use books, take their phones away as after school. Even after school, mom and dad should take the phones away until their homework's done, which is a great idea also.
You know, Tyler said, what if we spend as much on our children as we spent on war?
Ooh,
that's amazing. Like they asked this year for $1.5 trillion for military spending. What if we spent that on kids instead?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tyler, you should be in the Congress. Andrea says, this is one I like. Andrea, you nailed it. Parent involvement at home. Read to your kids when they're young. Be involved in their learning and progression. Read to your kids. I mean, read to your kids at night when they go to bed. I think parents who do that teach their kids how to read themselves because they're looking at the words and they're following mom and dad's reading and they can see what's going on. They can follow it.
So another person on our Facebook post, Michelle, reiterates reading and then says also pencil and paper. So getting away from computer reliance, parent and student accountability, and then spending more time outside.
Yeah. Good points by a lot of people who are looking at this and saying, cell phone ban. Maybe I was surprised. I will say this at the findings at the cell phone ban didn't increase test scores, like nothing. It
like
didn't-
zero.
And
there's actually in some junior highs, they found, not in some, they found that at the junior high level, math scores actually went down. They got worse with the cell phone ban.
See, that's hard to comprehend.
Well, maybe there was a little cheating going on. I don't
The
know.
cell phone
Maybe.
is their pocket calculator. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But, I still think overall cell phone ban makes sense. I didn't realize some schools, like you said, nationally have been doing it for
7 years,
8 years, yeah. And so the data is coming in quicker, more. It's more valuable there than it would be in Utah. But I think overall it still makes sense to do it. I absolutely support it, and I would support it when my kids were still in school for sure.
So April says that as a teacher, she can see immediate results. So maybe the studies are in schools so that we have data to back our own findings. And so she says day to day and semester to semester, she sees that cell phones have hurt kids' ability to focus and learn, and that there's a change since the ban was put into place, even just in Utah.
Yeah. Kendria, I can't read her whole thing because it's pretty long, but she starts with results take time, and phones are only part of the whole challenges that students face in encouraging reading of books for pleasure, spending more time doing unstructured, spontaneous activities, and less pressure to do other things to get like perfect grades. These things could make a big difference. Good for her.
And Brad points out that research has also shown, and I know this research, I'm familiar with it, it's shown that when you take notes using your handwriting, you're going to retain more of what you write. Because it engages your neural pathways differently, he's right about that. It also makes you slow down because you can type faster than you can write. And so when you're writing, you have to synthesize the information in your head so that you are capturing the key points as you're translating it to the piece of paper.
Yeah, I would say this. When I asked Mike about how schools and teachers felt about it, he said, the data's not in yet. That wasn't really too much a part of the equation. But I'm looking at one thing that says that teachers noted that strict cell phone bans led to less phone usage during class, obviously. In surveys, they said they were happier in their jobs, that teachers are actually happier in their jobs. That says a lot. That's as valuable as anything, and a reason to keep the cell phone ban in place.
What's interesting is Chris says better paid teachers with smaller class sizes. And we do have a texter that says, aren't they all just tools? We just need to teach them to use them appropriately and productively. So that's a really good comment, too.
Yeah. So teachers who said they share the share of students using phones in classes dropped from 80% down to 61%, down to 13% because of these bans, and that's made it. The cell phone ban usage does seem to be working. It's in place. I also understand the contrary part of this just for a second, and that is that sometimes kids need to be able to have that lifeline to mom and dad. Sometimes mom and dad needs to be able to talk to the kid. Maybe you disagree. I mean, we didn't have cell phones when my kids went to school, or if we did, they certainly weren't part of the curriculum. Nobody brought a cell phone to school.
It's just interesting. I'm looking at our Facebook post. There's 211 comments. There's no way we can read them all.
Yeah.
But we do have with us our producer, Andy Cup. Hey, Andy, what do you want to weigh in on this?
Hey, so my sister is an 8th grade civics teacher back in D.C., and I asked her this question too, and she commented as well, bring back the paper and the pen, but then she had this funny note, as well as the funding and resources to actually use paper and pen.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, okay, you're not wrong there. I think this conversation is really interesting. As a millennial, I grew up in kind of that transitory period between analog and digital. And so in high school, everything that I did, and in middle school and earlier, was all with paper and pen. And when I got to college, that's when I really started to use the laptops and the phones. And Holly, to your point, you were talking about this research. I struggled to retain knowledge so much more by taking notes on a laptop than I ever did with paper and pen. But at the same time, there was so much in college that it was like, there's no physical way I can write all of this as quickly as needed. I think if anything, though, it's what's going to help like the best student individually, because not everyone learns the same.
Oh, for sure.
Anyway. So, maybe
right.
having tech available. Phones, Greg, I'm with you. I don't think they need the phones in school. But the Chromebooks, the laptops, I mean, maybe it helps certain students and maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, it just depends on what they're looking at and when they're looking at it. And if it's book. I mean, I'm glad you brought in a perspective from a teacher, because I think that's as important, maybe more important than anything else. If the teachers think it makes sense and the teachers think this is something good, that's the point of contact that means the most to me. Test scores are great. It would be nice if they were going up, but if teachers say this makes our job easier, let's get back to the paper and pencil. Let's get back to some of the basics, some of the things that we all did when we were younger. It does ring a bell with me.
Right, and I remember when we were looking at Utah banning cell phones in schools, that was one of the things teachers said, we don't want them in the classroom, but we have no teeth to actually keep them out of the classroom. Legislature, please do something.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil's in the details. Like, how do you ban them? What do? You put them in a pouch, you put them in a cubby, they go between classes and get them. I think the bell-to-bell ban made the most sense.
Right, and this particular study, which is part of a working paper series, but they looked specifically at these lockable pouches, right? But one of the things that I am seeing, some of the comments are, this is just a fake study, poorly done. But I will tell you, from an academic perspective, taking a 7-year look at 41,000 schools, that is tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of data points. And this is a legitimate study. So you may disagree with the findings, but this is a legitimate study, and I think it's an important piece of the conversation to say, look, is it cell phones, or like one of our commenters said, do we need to just teach them to use this tool in a better, more effective way?
Good point. Thanks for joining us, Andy. When we come back, Utah just signed onto a national initiative called A Home for Every Child. And today is National Foster Care Day. We're going to talk about the impact, importance, and challenges of foster care here in this state. That's coming up next.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A family of 4 is lucky to be alive after their car went off the side of a 150-foot ridge. This happened in Arizona near the Utah border. St. George fire crews helped out in the rescue. The St. George News reports first responders aren't sure what caused the car to go off the road, but they're glad someone was nearby when it happened to call for help. The people in the car only suffered minor injuries. Utah's total ban on proposition betting on prop bets takes effect tomorrow. Utah lawmakers voted to add prop bets, including those in the sports betting market, to the state's total gambling ban during the last legislative session. State Representative Tyler Clancy was one of the many state lawmakers to support the move.
Sports gambling and these prop bets that Representative Elison is highlighting here is a huge drain on young people today.
Prediction market giant Kalshi is suing Utah over the law. They are waiting for a judge to rule on their request to block the new law. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The sudden collapse of Spirit Airlines is not only affecting travel, it's affecting local economies. Near Pittsburgh, Maurice Haas is the executive director of the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport, and he says the loss of flights will force downsizing.
We hate to do that because it's one big family here at the airport. I mean, a lot of people put their heart and soul in making this place thrive.
He says they expect to start cutting jobs in the next few months. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 261 points today to 49,203. Coming up, a few more showers still to come for those of you who've already managed to get out of the storm. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-771-1300. That's 800-771-1300.
Reservoirs are our water savings account. Every year, snow is our deposit. Some years we get more, some years we get less. This year, definitely on the low side. And when the deposit is small, we have to budget. Not because the sky is falling, but because it's just common sense. If we're smart with what we use now, we keep more in savings for next year. If we're not, we're drawing down the balance we rely on. Jordan Valley Water is asking everyone, homeowners, businesses, and government, to wait until May 15th to water outdoors. Life is better with water.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
Well, we don't have any delays on I-15 anymore, especially in Utah County where roadways are still a little damp, so you're going to want to watch your speed, but it is clean and clear between Ogden and Provo on I-15. But we do have a city street crash, and this is in Ogden at the intersection of University Boulevard and 30th Street, and it looks like we are blocking the southbound Washington Boulevard right lane and right lane eastbound on 30th Street. Light congestion in that intersection. Escape to Copper Rock in southern Utah. World-class golf meets breathtaking scenery, housing, and amenities. Come for the golf, stay for the adventure. Learn more at copperrock.com. Copper Rock, born to be played. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, the pop-up storms are going to continue into this evening, and today's highs will only be in the mid-60s, 66 probably. Not going to reach much more than that. Most of the rain will move out tomorrow morning, but it'll stay a little bit cool with a high of only 63. Right now, it's 55 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Governor Cox has signed on to a national initiative that aims to give every child in America a home. The new federal-state partnership focuses on improving child safety and well-being, and it's appropriate today because it's National Foster Care Day. So we do want to talk about the impacts of foster care here in Utah, but first I want to talk just really briefly about this Home for Every Child initiative.
Yeah, so the governor signed a proclamation that essentially says this: every child deserves a family who loves them and cares for them. This partnership is about making sure homes are ready and waiting for children and giving foster families the support they need to succeed.
So I think one of the other things that this initiative does, and I have been a foster parent, it was in a different state, it was in the state of Washington, but it's really trying to close the gap between the number of kids in foster care and the number of foster homes. So that's I think an important consideration. So if you say that there's a home for every child, then we need to make sure that there is a home for every child.
Yeah, we have with us on the line Dan Webster, the Director of Operations for the Utah Foster Care System. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
So what can you tell us about the foster care system here in Utah, how it operates and how it's working right now?
Well, so for a little bit more context, I work with Utah Foster Care. We're a private nonprofit entity that contracts with the Division of Child and Family Services. And we are tasked with recruiting and training and supporting foster parents. And while DCFS, Division of Child and Family Services, takes care of the casework and oversees placement, we really take on that part of supporting and maintaining our foster parents.
So can I just ask, how many families and children are involved in the foster care system? Basically, how many foster parents do you have? How many kids in care?
Yeah, great question, Holly. So we have around 1,700 children in foster care throughout the state and around 800 foster families. So when we talk about a home for every child, clearly that illustrates a significant gap that we're working to close.
Dan, I'm very naive about the foster care system, I'll admit.
Sure.
And so I'm going to ask maybe what seems like a really dumb question, but how does a child enter the foster care system? What happens? And I don't need to know anything personal, but just like, how does a child become involved in the foster care system?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really important question, Greg, because it really hinges on preserving child safety. And so when a child's safety is no longer able to be assured in their parents' home and their parents' care, then the Division of Child and Family Services will place them hopefully in the most familiar circumstances possible. And so they go through their placement process and in placing them potentially with relatives, and if that's not possible, then into one of our traditional foster homes.
So, Dan, when you're looking at foster families, and I've seen it, I guess, from that perspective. I had friends who did foster care within the state, and as I mentioned, I was a foster parent in a different state.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that these families are facing?
I think some of the biggest challenges that we see is that often we don't see our foster parents. They take on such a load that is largely invisible to most of society. And what I love about this initiative and the work that our First Lady, Abby Cox, especially has been doing to raise awareness about the needs for more foster parents, it attracts more support, more community that can circle around a foster family and help them to feel seen and to feel like the amazing work they are doing matters. And it makes a difference because it does. And so really to be seen for the work they're doing, to be honored, which is the last thing they want, right? That nobody wants to have that attention drawn to them. But for them to know that what they're doing matters and makes a difference in the lives of children, that goes a really long way. And so the biggest struggles we see, to be able to meet the needs of children with limited resources across the state, it is a big lift. And so we at Utah Foster Care tried to, again, bridge that gap and find that community support that can help keep our families around longer and can provide better service and support to our kids.
What kind of resources or maybe training does Utah Foster Care have to parents who want to be involved in the foster care system, or maybe who already are and who? Yeah. Because I wouldn't know the first thing to do, Dan. I really wouldn't. I raised my own three kids, but I wouldn't know what. And I'm sorry, I'm terribly naive. How foster care works from the parents' perspective, from the family's perspective.
Yeah, and so some of those supports, we have a remarkable staff across the state that provide ongoing trainings for our foster parents, support groups, clinical services, so therapy as needed, and then just the ability for, and probably the most impactful service, our foster parent to foster parent, that peer support that really they can speak to what they've been through and in a way that I as a clinician or one of our staff can be a great support on. To hear from somebody who's lived it, has that lived experience, that really can serve them in a much stronger way. And so we do provide those peer-to-peer support groups and again, the supports throughout the state from our community partners and sending them to Jazz games or Mammoth games or just to help them feel valued and seen for what they're doing. Families really love that, and that helps them stick around longer, helps them feel connected to the other people who really know what it means to be a foster parent.
So can I ask you a question about the kids? Because I know that this has got to be traumatic and in just on a variety of levels, right? So what are the challenges that these kids are facing while they're in a foster home?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think even just thinking about where they're coming from, they by and large, our children still love their biological parents. They want to be with them. They'd rather be with them than anyone else. And also, it reaches a point that safety is a question. And so having them be removed from their parents' care and into, frankly, a stranger's care, that's scary. And that's a lot of unknowns. And so something we talk a lot about with our foster families is to, again, bridge that gap of when a child comes into your home, what's going to help them feel most connected? What will help them feel a part of their family and hopefully to still remain a part of their biological parents' care, or a part of their family and their connection. There's typically ongoing connection between the parents and the kids. And so, but as you might imagine, that comes with some uncertainty. So I think to say it succinctly, there's a lot of uncertainty that these children are faced with. And so the most consistent and the most predictable and secure they can feel in their foster homes, the better off their outcomes can be until they can either return back to their homes or other options need to be pursued.
And Dan, if a family, a couple wants to be involved in the foster care system, how do they contact Utah Foster Care, and what would be available to them if they did contact your organization? Yeah. Good question. So we would encourage people to look us up online, utahfostercare.org. We have a myriad of information on our website and also on our social media platforms with the same handle, Utah Foster Care. There's a lot of information. We have, our staff all across the state who are able to answer questions based on what it's like to foster in Cedar City versus Vernal versus Murray. And we have our staff that can answer those. Many of our staff who are foster parents themselves that can really walk somebody through what it means to prepare to become a foster parent, what this will look like, having children in your home, and working with the Division of Child and Family Services. And there are a lot of supports along the way to help a family in their preparation to foster and while they foster. Thank you very much. That was Dan Webster, Director of Operations for Utah Foster Care. And when we come back, when you hear the word midwife, what do you think of? We're going to dive into this less-known part of the medical world when we come back.
I was in foot pain for 20 years, trying to give it relief, buying all these different insoles, drugstore insoles, custom insoles. I spent thousands of dollars. I bought all these products, and not a single one worked. I really, truly needed to have relief in my feet. And the Good Feet arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed.
For over 20 years, we've been helping people like Teresa actually live the life they love without their feet getting in the way.
They wanted to make sure that I got something that my feet felt good in, not somebody else's feet. I love the fact that I can wear these arch supports in all my shoes. I have boots, I have cowboy boots, I have running shoes, I have walking shoes, I have flat shoes, I have heels. It makes me so happy. If you ask my husband, he will crack up because there is no store I would rather go in than a shoe store. I'm Teresa, and that's my Good Feet story.
See what we can do for you with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Join KSL News Radio's Amanda Dixon this Friday from 3 to 5 at the Salt Lake NPS store at 1600 Empire Road. NPSstore.com.
Gold demand is skyrocketing to record highs. As more Americans rush to preserve their savings, will there be enough gold? I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe physical gold is the only way to truly protect your 401k or IRA savings. Gold offers tangible security that can't be tracked, stolen, or inflated. That's why I strongly advocate for gold IRAs. To learn more, text the word SECURE to 989898 now. Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust, and their thousands of great reviews prove I'm not alone. So don't wait another second. Protect your retirement savings today and see how easy it is to move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals. Text SECURE to the number 989898 for your free Gold IRA Info Kit. Again, SECURE to 989898.
Message and data rates may apply.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
When American troops withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, thousands of evacuees fled to the U.S. for protection. Many Americans welcomed their new neighbors.
For the last week, the governor tells me his office has been getting calls nonstop with Utahns wanting to help.
When we saw the pictures and the videos coming out of Afghanistan, we prayed to be able to help them.
But then, what happened? Listen to Stranger Becomes Neighbor, wherever you get your podcasts.
An expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Among many other things, today is International Midwifery Day, honoring midwives. And a lot of people, Holly, get into politics because they care about their community, they want to make a difference. For you, it was not only that, but also your time as a midwife that pushed you into the political world. And I thought that was an interesting pivot.
Well, except that it wasn't. So in 2000, I was going to say 2020. No, it was way before that.
A few years ago.
In 2000, there was a Utah midwife who was arrested and charged with practicing medicine without a license. And some of us within the midwifery community in Utah are like, we think the law is wrong, not that she's wrong. And so we embarked on an effort to legalize home birth midwifery in the state of Utah. That's how I got involved, right? And when I got involved, I was like, I hate politics, but here I am 25 years later, so apparently I don't hate it that much.
So what was it like before and after? Were you able to change
Yeah, so
the
we
law?
changed the law. We did, and it's been in effect now for 21 years. But one of the things I think that's interesting is that a lot of people think, well, isn't that a thing of the past, right? Weren't midwives just people that we had before we had doctors and hospitals? And the answer is, well, yes, we did have midwives, but we also still have midwives. And it depends on where you go in the world. In many places in the world, they're the primary care providers. So if you go to the UK, for example, United Kingdom, midwives are the primary care providers for women who are pregnant. If you go to several Scandinavian countries, midwives are the primary care providers. And obstetricians who are surgeons, they are the specialists, right? So, for example, you wouldn't go to a cardiologist for your regular checkup.
Right.
In places where midwives are the primary care providers, they are the first level providers, and then they will see an obstetrician if they need to for, a complication that comes up, for example.
So I was thinking of a midwife as showing up at the event and helping the baby get delivered.
Yes.
But you and I guess for what you're telling me, they get involved in the early stages of the pregnancy.
Care.
Okay, so what can and does a midwife do in the early stages of pregnancy?
Well, just everything that you would do with any other provider, whether that's a nurse practitioner or a doctor that's a family practice doctor or an obstetrician. So you do prenatal care, right? And I have to say, midwifery in the United States is different than it is in other areas of the world, but we have kind of it's a bifurcation, but it's even a trifurcation in Utah. But you have certified nurse midwives who are registered nurses who do additional training, and then they practice almost exclusively in hospitals. You also have direct entry midwives. You can also have some certified nurse midwives who choose to practice out of hospital. That can be birth centers or it can be at home. And then in Utah, we actually have 2 levels of those direct entry midwives, licensed direct entry midwives, which is what I became after we passed that law, and then direct entry midwives who don't carry a license. And so for the people who are on that path, there's very little government oversight, I would say, right? And so for some people that was a choice for them. But midwives in the state of Utah, and I'll just talk about home birth. If you're a licensed home birth midwife, you can order lab work that's appropriate. You can consult. You can order an ultrasound. And then all the regular stuff. You take a blood pressure. You measure the mom's growing uterus. You listen to the baby. All of those things.
So how and why do expectant parents engage a midwife? I mean, at what point do you... I guess
that's a good question.
I just hadn't thought of it myself, but the more I hear about it, the more I think it's a very effective program.
That's a good question. I would say when we started our efforts, midwives were not. They had been on the decline, in not only in the state but in the country, our country as well. And there's been a real resurgence. And I would say there's a number of different things that play into that. Some of it is cost, to be honest. It's not the only consideration, but it is a consideration because midwives delivering at a birth center or in a person's home, they're much cheaper than in the hospital. Sure. Although people are still choosing CNMs in the hospital, right? But that's one consideration. Another consideration is the amount of time that the care provider will spend with that mom, both in prenatal visits and in labor. So in labor, they're with the mom a lot more often. When I would go to somebody's house, for example, I would be with them from the time I got there to the time I left, right? So it's not like I'm in and out of the room and you're on a monitor, and right, there's a lot more personalized attention. But there's also a safety consideration, and I think one of the things that people are mistaken about is that home birth is not safe or delivering with a midwife is not safe. It's not true. And there are numerous studies that show that it is basically as safe as in the hospital for normal pregnant women. Now, if you're high risk, then that's a different consideration. In the United States and in Utah, we have lots of options, right? And so in the state of Utah, if you're a licensed direct entry midwife, you're not going to deliver twins and you're not going to deliver a breech baby, for example, right? Those are higher risk pregnancies and deliveries, and so those would be referred out. Now, people say, well, what about pain relief? Well, if you're delivering at home or in a birth center, you're not going to get an epidural. That's not a thing for people who are having home births. And so for the transport, most of the moms who are transported in labor, and I'd say that's about an 8% rate, most of them are for pain relief and potentially labor assistance, meaning they've had a long drawn out labor, they're really tired, they need some Pitocin and they need an epidural, right? And that's why you transport them in. So that happens, right? And I would say Utah has an out-of-hospital birth rate that is somewhere in the range of 3 to 5% of all births. So it's not like it's this huge, overwhelming number.
Right.
But people do choose it. They choose it for financial reasons. They choose it because they want to have an unmedicated birth, and they feel like that is the best way to do it. They choose it because they feel like it is safer for them to be there. There's just a variety of reasons. And then I would say during 2020, the pandemic, people were being instructed that they couldn't show up even with their partners in the early days, right? They couldn't bring their laboring partner. And so they're just like, I feel like my home has fewer germs than if I were to go into the hospital.
Sure.
So I think that people who started making that decision in 2020, I think that kind of spread. And then one last thing is the show Call the Midwife really popularized, I think, using midwives. And one of the things I love about that show is they have midwives on staff as consultants, and their birth scenes, they're realistic. They're not the ones that I sit there and go, oh my gosh, nobody has a baby like that.
Yeah. I have to imagine, just in my own experience, that having a child born in your home would be beneficial. I mean, I don't know. My wife didn't really want to do that, or maybe we didn't consider it, but I think it would have been pleasant.
Oh, I mean, I'm a big fan. I did a lot of water births in my day, and there's a lot of data behind it. And, people used to ask me, I was trained as a registered nurse, and then I chose not to become a certified nurse midwife. I chose to become a home birth midwife, a direct entry midwife in the state of Utah. And one of the reasons I did that was because I read the reports, I read the data, I read the studies, right? And there's a lot of potential advantages to home birth, but yeah.
Okay, word of the day, water birth. What's that?
It's having a baby in the water.
Literally.
So like babies are born in a pool or in your deep jacuzzi tub. Yeah. Yeah, so water is like Mother Nature's epidural. So a lot of people to relax will soak in a tub. They'll maybe go for a swim. They'll stand in a shower, right? Water can be very soothing and beneficial. It also has some gravity neutralization properties, right? Because you float. And so it changes the nature of the contractions. It doesn't make them go away, but it does make them feel different. And I will just say I had most of the clients that I delivered did do water births, and I had very little tearing on the moms. The babies transition quickly. Now, they're not fish. Like, you can't leave them underwater.
Of course not, right.
But they come out and they go right up into mom's arms, and it can just be really amazing. That's why people choose it.
I never thought about that.
It's awesome.
So tell me, I guess you define different levels of midwives, but there's certainly training, education that goes into that.
Yeah. So, for example, I had both academic and clinical training as a registered nurse, and I had academic and clinical training as a midwife. I did apprenticeship. I had to have a certain number of births. There's a national organization that has a certification, and that is what Utah's licensure is based on. So you have to get a certain number of prenatal visits and neonatal visits and postpartum visits and births, right? You have to have all of those, and you have to have the documentation and work with the senior midwife. So yes, absolutely, there's training. And when do you have to call the ER or a doctor? Right, it's when those things come up that are outside the realm of normal,
and that can happen in the process itself.
That can happen.
Right,
and, it does happen during labor, but I would say emergency situations are actually fairly rare. They can happen, but you're prepared for those, right? That's what you're trained for, is to prepare for those emergencies.
Wow. Interesting. Well, I learn something from you every day, and today is International Midwifery Day. So again, it's a phenomenon, a culture that I hadn't appreciated,
and I love it so much.
But I think a lot of people, you've been a big fan, a big proponent of it. Well, in the next hour of Inside Sources, if we move closer to Election Day, both the primaries and the general, in fact, some primaries nationally have started today. Can you tell when the candidates are using artificial intelligence? Stay with us for that discussion.
Common Spirit Health Studios. This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top story this hour, Yellowstone Park Rangers are reminding all visitors to be aware of bears after hikers were attacked on a trail not far from one of the park's biggest attractions. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
2 hikers were attacked and injured by one or more bears while hiking on the Mystic Falls Trail, which isn't far from Old Faithful. The park says this happened Monday afternoon and is the first bear attack this year. Several trails and roads are closed right now while rangers investigate what happened. They say visitors should always carry bear spray, hike in groups, be alert, and make noise so you don't surprise a bear. They also say don't run from a bear. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
There will be some changes to the east side of Sugar House Park as construction continues for the new Highland High School. One of the largest projects will be putting a new retaining wall on the boundary between the park and the school. The hill on the east side might look different and some trees will need to be removed, but Sugar House Park Authority's Rocky Christensen says not to fear. For every tree taken out, 2 more will be planted.
And so, we will probably come out positive in trees in the end, like have more trees coming back to the park.
A volleyball pad will also need to be moved and 8 horseshoe pits taken out, but Chris Jansen says they will likely come up with a new amenity or improvement rather than put the horseshoes back. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the markets are up. The Dow Jones is up 253 points. That's just over 0.5%. The S&P 500 is up 57 points. That's 0.8%. And the Nasdaq is up 234 points. That is 0.93%. Coming up, it's getting hot. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Warmer weather is finally here, and that means cookouts,
ball games,
and maybe enjoying some time on the water.
But it also means lots of heavy food, sweets, and maybe an extra adult beverage or two. Thank goodness we both take Active Liver from New Nordic. Did you know your liver works around the clock processing food, sugar, alcohol, and everyday toxins? All the things that can really impact your health.
That's why daily support matters. Active Liver is designed to protect normal liver function and support your body's natural detox process.
With trusted natural ingredients like milk thistle, turmeric, and artichoke extract, it's gentle enough to take all year long.
No harsh cleanses, no extreme detoxes, just simple daily liver support. We really feel the difference.
Active Liver helps us enjoy the good things in life with peace of mind that our liver isn't working overtime. Active Liver is available online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com, and you can find it in stores at CVS, Meijer Grocery, Wegmans, and now Active Liver is available at your local GNC.
My friend Joey means well.
Always remember that the early bird gathers no moss.
But he gets a little confused.
You know, you can't make a silk purse out of a wooden nickel.
Like Joey, many of us can be confused when it comes time to plan for retirement. When to take Social Security, how to use that 401k, what about the stock market, taxes, and Medicare? Todd Kim at Galileo Wealth Management can help to simplify retirement planning. His goal is to have you walk into retirement with confidence, not worry, and to address the number one concern among retirees today, the fear of running out of money. Call Galileo Wealth today for a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to talk about the details of your retirement. 385-247-7000. It's 385-247-7000. Or online, GalileoWealth.com. And remember,
one man's trash is thicker than water. Of course, water's not thick at all. It's watery.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Save 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Overall, I-15's running at good speeds, but we do have a little bit of a slowdown. This is as you're going just past the 400 North exit in Centerville, headed toward the Farmington split, and then also an oversized load slowing down traffic eastbound in Parley's Canyon at Summit Park. The Soldier Hollow Classic Sheepdog Championship and Festival, May 22nd through the 25th, Memorial Weekend. 4 days of fun, competition, and demos presented by Purina Pro Plan. Visit SoldierHollowClassic.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to be a little colder for the next 2 days with temperatures in the mid-60s with a chance of rain before temps jump back to the 70s on Thursday with a high of 79 on Friday. If you thought that was hot, though, try 83 on for size next Monday. Right now, though, it's 55 degrees and cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Does it seem, Holly, that we have an artificial intelligence segment every show lately?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
This one's really interesting, but when you and I ran for political office, we didn't have access to artificial intelligence. At least I didn't. But if we were running today, I wonder if we would be using it.
I don't know.
And how you would use it, really.
I don't know, because I don't really use it right now. But you and I were talking before we started this segment, and maybe we could help use it for political speeches, although that's really how I got my start in the communication arena away from being a midwife, is writing political stump speeches and stuff. I actually did that. I helped write flyers and stuff. So I don't know. I know for sure, at least I think I know for sure, that I wouldn't use it to produce video ads. But it is being used for it, and high-profile races are using it. It's super interesting.
So we do have Brigham Tomko in studio today, Deseret News reporter, political reporter. Brigham, tell us how and why some campaigns are using artificial intelligence, because Holly and I are old school.
Yeah, we're old. And you're just old, Greg.
Right, I'm just plain old, right.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Artificial intelligence is changing the landscape of political campaigns before our eyes. And so we didn't see it as much in 2024, but a lot has changed since then, where AI has become a lot more competent when it comes to producing videos. With a simple prompt, it can create an entire video for you.
Wow.
And so we're seeing in the Texas Senate race, where you have some of the most expensive races around the country, that's including the Republican primary race between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, but then also the Democratic side of the aisle there in the state. They're having this battle of AI videos that will show their opponent, in an embarrassing situation or against the backdrop of kind of an embarrassing song, making fun of them. And it looks like, Ken Paxton dancing along or John Cornyn, but this is entirely created by AI. And most of the time, these videos don't even have a disclosure at the end saying that this was created by AI. And now I think lots of people recognize we're in the AI era of social media and politics, and they get a sense that this is fabricated. But when it comes to conversations and mass text campaigns, we're seeing new innovative implementations of AI that might be hard to discern between whether this is a campaign volunteer or a campaign chatbot that has been trained to persuade you to vote for their candidate.
I have to say I'm a little terrified, because how are voters, how are you going to know unless you're there in person and you hear words come out of their mouth, you can see them at the front of the room, that. It really does terrify me, especially if they don't add the marker on this was made by AI. I mean, some stuff that's over the top, you're like, okay, yeah, sure, that's AI. Right. And there's always been negative campaigning. You've always had the candidates that are put in the black and white, and there are these scary things that has always been out there. But this AI stuff makes it just so more concerning, I guess, for me. So much more concerning. I can't even speak today.
Yeah, and are there rules in place for these deep fakes? I mean, how does a voter know what's real and what's not? Or is that even part of the equation?
A majority of states do have policies restricting or even prohibiting deepfake videos, and there are 2 states, it's Texas and one other, that ban those outright. But I was just talking about Texas with AI videos and these campaigns, right? These laws don't apply to federal elections. These are state focused, and so this would have to be a federal policy coming from the FEC or Congress passing new legislation. Most states, though, including Utah, do require these kinds of videos if you are, trying to advertise a product, to include a disclosure at the bottom saying this was generated by AI. But one of the fastest growing use cases for AI in campaigns is actually by contracting with companies like one I spoke with called Convos, where you train an AI chatbot exclusively on a candidate's websites, voting record, talking points, and then you send out a mass text. I'm sure all of us have received those kind of spam texts from candidates, but these will be a little bit, I think, more slim and easier to engage with. It might just be a simple question or two, and then as you respond to it, this chatbot will begin interacting with you in your messages. Mm-hmm. And if you have any question about the candidate, how does this candidate feel about healthcare or immigration, then this AI chatbot, whose job is to convince you to vote for this candidate, will respond.
That is fascinating, and you put that in your article as one of the positive uses, and I can see that also a little concerning. However, volunteers with campaigns have been doing that forever, right? They have those talking points in front of them. If they're making the phone calls, then that's what they're doing. So I can understand how this frees up campaigns to use their volunteers to do other things, for example.
Exactly. It'll be a money saver for campaigns and may enable campaigns that don't have as much institutional or fundraising backing to have a broader reach potentially. But then the question becomes, will people be more trustworthy of a AI chatbot and maybe less skeptical than they would be if someone knocked on their door and they're talking to a campaign volunteer? Mm-hmm. Maybe they feel like this AI chatbot voice is more authoritative because it's got to be taking its information from a variety of sources from the internet, right? Like one of these chatbots like ChatGPT.
That it's more believable, you're saying.
Well, there's been multiple studies that I highlighted in this article showing that even if people know that they're being persuaded by a partisan chatbot, they're much more likely to be convinced by the chatbot than they are by a human. And that's also the case for AI. Arguments are more persuasive than typical political ads.
Wow.
But you pointed out some examples in Texas in the Senate race there where they were actually portraying the other candidate doing something inappropriately. I mean, that maybe there is a little disclaimer at the bottom, but that could, to me, that just seems like it would run straight in the face of Federal Election Commission guidelines.
They're pretty broad.
Yeah.
I know. So you could see this going a number of different ways. Maybe it gets to the point where people have even less trust in what they see or hear, and they just assume everything that they're not hearing directly from their chosen candidate is false. And so that could potentially lead to people getting away with committing actual crimes or doing things that are actually wrong because they just have the plausible deniability of, oh, this was AI.
Yeah, exactly. So how does this work? How is it working right now in Utah campaigns?
So I talked to some of the top political consultants in the state for Republican and Democratic candidates who they're actually running the races right now for Representative Blake Moore and former Representative Ben McAdams, so on both sides of the aisle. And they say that it's already being used as it is in many industries to synthesize data, to create drafts of speeches or social media posts. And one of the most probably effective or cost-saving uses of AI is to sift through voter data and to help reach out to specific people or organize volunteers and things
I'm on board for that one. Create a walking list, right, from those voter lists, because that's really difficult.
So I can completely understand helping the candidate, promoting his or her agenda, voter lists, speeches, but the flip side is portraying the other candidate in a false light. That's where, to me at least, it crosses the line, and maybe we'll do something about it. But, I mean, some of these things you talked about in your article that they're doing in Texas are just really offensive.
Yeah, well, one thing that's important to note is even if you're just using a general AI chatbot that supposedly is trained off of a variety of sources online, it gets things wrong. One consultant, Matt Lusty, he mentioned that during the 2024 election cycle, he did a test on ChatGPT asking it, if I'm a MAGA Republican, who should I vote for in this gubernatorial race? And it actually gave him false information about who in that race had received an endorsement from President Donald Trump. And who knows, that could be a deciding factor for some people if they choose to ask AI before they fill out their ballot.
It's still AI, but verify, right? I mean, yeah, it's just such a fascinating conversation to me, and it just grows so rapidly. Right. I mean, I remember the very first campaign where anybody ever used Facebook and Twitter, and it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Groundbreaking. All right. Thanks for that, Brigham. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, that is a mountain lion, if you can believe it, screaming. And there are more and more experiences with mountain lions across the Wasatch Front. So what the heck do you do if you come upon a cougar? We will talk to you about how to stay safe when we come back.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone's stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back give you problems as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100%.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system. I put them in my shoes, my back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Learn more or schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com and come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet Store.
This is Nate Orchard from Advanced Window Products. When you live in Utah, your windows do a lot more than let the light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for your local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year round. And installation is done by our own certified in-house crews, never subcontractors. That's why Utah homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Right now, take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 or more windows. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. For 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Utah trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products, built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 801-850-9100 for that $2,500 off, or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
Join us at Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade Event, our biggest trade event of the year, May 14th through the 17th. Trade in your RV and get the highest value guaranteed. Then upgrade for less with new RVs starting as low as $94 a month. Plus, take 25% off select maintenance services. Save up to 40% on camp-ready must-haves. And enter to win a new RV. Don't miss the Red, White, and New Trade Event at your local Camping World, May 14th through the 17th. We'll see you there.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
911, coming back to what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
and you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
There's danger out there. It lurks on highways and quiet neighborhood streets. It's more likely to kill you than a shark and more terrifying than the biggest snake. Distracted driving claims lives every day. Every notification, swipe, social post, video, or selfie while driving risks your life. So while you might think public speaking or the zombie apocalypse is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Okay, that's not the way to start the segment. Well, that's a kitty.
That's wild.
That is a mountain lion screaming. They don't sound like a lion roaring, and they're not the nicest kitties. As Utahns take to the mountains this summer, they're facing more and more face-to-face encounters with mountain lions. And if you come up on a cougar, we've seen them. I've seen them when I'm in my car, safely away from them. But if I ever came up on one on the trail, I wouldn't be 100% sure what I should do.
So interesting. I've had my own. It was a kind of a close encounter. So coming home from a birth, actually, one time I saw one just a couple of blocks from my house. It was about 4:30 in the morning. But also when we lived in Alpine, we had quite a large lot with trees at the back, and we had a neighbor call us one morning and say, "You have a mountain lion in your backyard. You might not want to let the kids out right now." Right? And it's like, oh, okay, that's scary.
Don't let the poodle out. Yeah. Or the kids.
Yeah, right. Right. So I remember seeing this video. This was 6 years ago. Kyle Burgess went viral on the internet because he came across a mountain lion while he was running a trail in Provo Canyon, and he filmed it. And this cat is like super scary
and
following him.
Yeah, down the trail.
I definitely remember it just like it was yesterday, and how an easy hike or just a day on the trail can turn to be pretty dangerous if we're not being careful.
You wonder how many times we've all been hiking and a cougar was watching us
And we didn't
from
know,
like
right?
feet away or so. Like, I'm
know.
sure that's happened to me more than once. I mean,
Yeah.
that's spooky.
So in his particular case, if you remember this one, the thing that I watched over and over and over, maybe it was just because it was the pandemic, but this cat, as she's chasing him, her arms are like flailing in a way like I didn't even know that they could move that way. So she was lunging and hissing at him, and of course, what he had done is gotten in between her and her babies. But it's interesting that those encounters can be out there. So you said you didn't know what you would do. I don't know. I would probably freeze, and that's actually the wrong thing to do.
Oh, freezing's the wrong thing to do?
Well, you're not supposed to like freeze and make yourself small. You're supposed to like make yourself big and scary, right?
I think
but you're not
also
supposed to run
don't
away.
Run away, yeah. Then become
Then you
become bait.
think you're prey.
You're
You're prey.
inviting the challenge.
Yeah.
I think standing up tall. I remember confronting a moose once, and the moose was coming.
They're scary
and
too.
it was frightening. And he finally decided he was going to make the charge at me. And I was on my mountain bike, and I literally lifted the bike up as high as I could, so that I became as tall as I could.
Oh, wow.
And he kept coming at me, and he got just within. It seemed like a few feet. It was probably a few yards, and then he darted and went into the bushes. I never saw him
Playing
again.
chicken.
Yeah, I was just playing chicken.
Wow.
But I had that bike up there because I thought there's no way I can outrun this thing.
Yeah. So if you remember too, I don't know if you saw this video, but just like last week, there was a homeowner in maybe Midvale, but they had a cougar in their backyard, like on the ring cam where they could see this cougar just, trying to get in, being out there all friendly, so not friendly.
It seems like every time we have cougar encounters in the towns, that the remedy, and I don't blame Wildlife Resources, they have to do what they have to do, is to kill the animal. It seems like there would be, I don't know, and I'm not a veterinarian, but maybe it's harder to sort of.
Well, I understand, like with bears, for example, once they get a taste of human food / human environment, they're going to keep coming back, right? So Wildlife Resources in the state of Utah offered tips for avoiding conflict, and then also what to do if you encounter a cougar. So I'm going to give you, these are some of the tips that the Deseret News wrote up. But first, don't hike or jog alone. Okay?
These are tips to avoid
conflict, right? This is to not come in contact with a cougar. Maintain awareness. Avoid using headphones that are like sound blocking headphones. You want to be able to hear what's happening in your environment.
Yeah, and you don't want to go into areas where you find dead animals. If you find a carcass, that means probably that something's enjoying that periodically. You don't want to get between yourself and the cougar's lunch.
And exactly. And this is one that I didn't realize, right? If you live in an area where deer would come to feed, don't leave your kids outside unattended and or pets, especially at dawn or dusk, right? Because those are the times that are most likely for their cougars to come out.
So speaking of hiking or jogging alone, I have to tell one more personal story. I was mountain biking up by Powder Mountain, and it had snowed, and I was alone like a complete idiot. And I was following the snow, and on this trail, I had this what's called a fat bike, and I kept seeing cougar tracks on the trail ahead of me, and I couldn't tell if, if I was chasing it off or it had been there. But I mean, it had only snowed that night, so whatever that animal was, and I was so scared. But I thought, what do I do? I'm 2 miles from my car either way.
Yeah.
I just have to keep going.
Yeah.
I just remember every time I'd go into a thick area,
I
would yell, you make as much noise as I could, and just like I thought, if I scare this animal enough that he doesn't want to bother me, I'll be happy.
All right. So the next set of advice is what to do if you actually encounter a cougar.
Right.
And you're right. Never run.
Right.
Since it could trigger its instincts to chase you.
Interesting. Maintain eye contact, and I think that's important because you're challenging. You're not backing off.
You want to pick up your kids and your pets and keep them really close to you.
Yeah, stand up tall like I did with the moose.
Yep, that's right.
Get as big as you can.
That's right.
Yeah, don't like get down on your knees and become small because then you're easier prey.
And I remember from the video, right, of the one that we just talked about where he was chased in 2020, he was yelling and he picked up a rock and ended up throwing and hitting her with a rock. But it's the be really loud, You can back away slowly, but then this one, fight back if you're attacked. I'm like, really? But
you don't have any
protect your
choice.
head and neck.
Yeah, because that's where they go for is your neck.
Oh, yeah.
And your head. That's what that's their kill areas. That's what they're going to do.
And then they say if you're aggressive enough, the cougar will probably flee. So when should people report a cougar sighting?
Yeah, interesting question.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's
always.
not every time. It's actually not every time. So it is if it has killed something in a neighborhood or a yard,
right.
if it's exhibiting aggressive behavior, or if it's coming back and you've seen it several times on your security cameras.
Yeah, I think they're beautiful animals. We don't appreciate lions in the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mountain lions, they literally are, and they're beautiful animals. They're big. You know, they're bigger than a.
That scream is terrifying.
They're not as big as a lion in the jungle.
Well,
but they're big animals,
yeah.
and they could definitely take you down.
Kitty.
Yeah, if you wanted to fight one. But I've seen people with mountain biking helmets, and they'll grab onto the helmet. Like if the person wasn't wearing a helmet, they would have had serious trouble.
Wow.
I'll tell you the worst encounter I had with a wild animal was a little prairie chicken. I don't know if I got close to her nest or what, but this is...
Did she attack you?
Oh, repeatedly. She just whacked me, and my son and I were mountain biking, and what she would do is she would attack the part of your body that wasn't covered by your clothing.
Oh, my gosh.
So suddenly you'd feel her on the back of your neck.
Oh, my gosh.
My son's mountain biking shirt was a little too small, and it would show the back of his just above his belt, and it would attack him there.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
He was like, Dad. I'm like, no way, I'm getting out of here. And then he passed me, and then all of a sudden it was hitting me. I'm like, hey,
I don't know if I should laugh or not, but that sounds funny to me.
It was traumatic for both of us. This thing was so small, but it was mean as it could be.
Oh, my gosh. So we live in an area where we've been in the same house for 22 and a half years. So when we moved there in Pleasant Grove, it was still kind of not developed. And we had a lot of skunks in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was here, kitty. No.
Yeah.
Don't pet the kitty. Don't pet the black and white kitty, right? And just last year, our little dog was able to find, no, not a skunk, but he found in the storm drain a mama raccoon with a baby raccoon. And I don't know whatever happened to them, but that's super sad. They were down in the storm drain.
Yeah.
But we used to have a lot more wildlife, but with all the development around us now, but basically we get deer in the backyard during the winter, and that's about it.
I don't have time to finish this story, but we've had an animal that was living underneath our porch, and so I set one of those traps out, those nice traps, and it turned out it was a skunk. And so then I'm like, now what do I do? And I found it online the coolest way to get rid of a skunk. I'll tell you about that sometime, but it really worked, and I was able to get the skunk out, and it didn't hurt me at all.
All right.
Well, when we come back on Inside Sources, auto insurance prices keep rising.
Windshields no longer cost $300, but they're closer to $1,200 to $1,500.
Ouch. And fraud isn't helping the cost. We're going to talk to Matt Gephardt next.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top national story this hour. From ABC News, President Trump has signed an executive order that he says will restore the presidential physical fitness test to all American schools. The original test was disbanded in 2012 for a program that promoted holistic health, nutrition, and wellness. Here's the president making the announcement in the Oval Office.
We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back. My administration's working very hard to defend America's cherished athletic traditions and pass our values of excellence and competitiveness to the next generation.
The newly revised test will bring back requirements in physical fitness for kids, including hitting benchmarks in running, flexibility, and strength. Other national stories, KSL is following a new scam, this time targeting immigrants with fake lawyers. In some cases, they even used fake courtrooms to make the scam look real. ABC News chief investigative reporter Aaron Katursky has more.
In New York, 5 defendants have pleaded not guilty to charges accusing them of holding sham immigration proceedings, including asylum interviews and court appearances. Prosecutors said one victim ended up skipping a real immigration hearing and was deported. And in Orlando, 4 people are facing charges accusing them of setting up a fake law firm and extorting millions from victims. They have not yet entered pleas.
The Department of Homeland Security is aware of these scams. They say officials will never call out of the blue, demand money, or accept payment using gift cards or cryptocurrency. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the markets are up. The Dow Jones is up 318 points. That's 0.65%. The S&P 500 is up 60 points. That's 0.84%. And the NASDAQ is up 244 points. That's nearly 1%. Coming up, we're in for a hot week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The bridge loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call it 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has been Utah's most trusted name for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical services. Got a high-priced repair bill from another company and you're just not sure about it? Call Whipple. Get a free, no-pressure estimate or bring us their quote for an honest second opinion. Totally free. Whipple Service Champions, Utah's first place for second opinions since 1947. Call 385-273-7167 for your free estimate today. 385-273-7167.
The Children's Center Utah provides a unique service in our communities by meeting the needs of very young children and their caregivers. Here's a Little Minds, Big Hope message from Dr. Kyle Smith, the Children's Center Utah's child and adolescent psychiatrist during May's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Did you know what looks like defiance may actually be fear? Children who have experienced trauma may have a harder time staying calm, following directions, or trusting adults. Find out more at childrencenterutah.org.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Michelle Rowe.
We have a couple of crashes westbound 30th Street at Washington Boulevard in Ogden. That is the right of the 2 lanes that are blocked. And then also we have another crash in Orem. This is just as you're getting off the freeway. This is for drivers headed eastbound on University Parkway. The right shoulder is blocked as you're coming at the off-ramp to go eastbound. Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures are going to sit in the 60s until Thursday when they crawl through the 70s to a high of 79 on Friday. Monday, we're getting our first kiss of summer with a high of 83. Right now, though, it's 55 degrees and mostly cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it might surprise you to know that insurance fraud is costing Americans over $300 billion a year, and it's growing. We're going to go in-depth with KSL investigator Matt Gephardt in this story, but first let's listen to his reporting on car insurance fraud, something that's really prevalent here in Utah.
You might think it's home fraud or medical insurance fraud, but it's not. Half of Utah's fraud cases we found involve vehicles, and these scams slow down claims and drive up the premiums you pay. This is video from the National Insurance Crime Bureau demonstrating, well, crime, organized crime. Drivers in this case working together to perform what's called a swoop and squat. See how one car pulls in front of their victim and hits the brakes, while a second car traps the victim in the lane. They can't avoid hitting that first car. It's dangerous, even deadly, but thieves are collecting insurance payouts from staged accidents like this one.
We've seen a steady increase over the years.
Armin Glick, who investigates insurance fraud for the state, is putting it mildly. According to state records, insurance fraud has been full throttle in the Beehive State. The numbers of cases regulators investigated in 2025 nearly doubled those from 2022. Now, Glick says most of the fraud here doesn't usually involve staged collisions, rather staged paperwork. False reports.
They swerved to avoid a deer or an animal and struck a guardrail, or a hit and run in a grocery store parking lot.
The biggest scheme, they say, Glick says, is crash and buy. That's where uninsured drivers buy a policy just after they've crashed.
They'll file the claim and they'll represent that they were involved in the accident after they were insured.
Another common scheme involves drivers trying to lower their rates by lying about where the car is located, whether it's used for ride sharing, or who usually drives it. And Glick says one of the biggest increases they've seen lately is windshield fraud. That's where people get insurance to cover a windshield that's already been broken.
Windshields no longer cost $300, but they're closer to $1,200 to $1,500.
Whether it's windshield fraud, a crash and buy, or a staged collision, gaming the system causes everyone's rates to go up.
An increase in our premiums that we pay of $700 to $1,000 a year due to insurance fraud.
We do have Matt Gephardt, KSL investigator, with us in the studio. And one fraud that I've seen involving motor vehicles that wasn't covered here that is fairly common is when people get upside down in their car. They owe more than it's worth, and so suddenly it gets stolen. You know what I mean? And it's gone, and it's found in the weeds somewhere. Months later, it's trashed, and they get their payoff because they can't afford it. But that's another form of insurance fraud. But these are really interesting. I hadn't thought about some of these, like the crash fraud. That you hear about it, but it actually does happen.
I mean, the one you were just talking about is also, as you say, fraud, right? Because you're defrauding the insurance company. But don't do that because you're still going to end up owing the difference, right?
That's you
still owe on your note. All right, fine, you got a check, but it'll allow you to make a couple of payments, but you're still upside down.
Or you get caught, then you don't get paid. And your car's trashed.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you get the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
So tell us in Utah what's most common then.
So most common is, as we reported, the paperwork fraud. It's less the scammers causing collisions to try to go after you, and it's more consumers trying to game the system by buying a policy afterwards, after the fact, right?
I see.
I've already been in an accident.
Yeah.
I don't have insurance, or I have the wrong kind of insurance, or I don't have enough insurance. And so what I do is I call my agent and I say, I've been thinking a long time, I really want collision insurance. And then you leave the car parked in the garage for 6 weeks, and then you go, hey, by the way, I just got in a car accident, and then it, so that's fraud, right? You are not,
Absolutely.
you don't get to go back in time. You don't get to post-date these things. And the victim is all the rest of us, because we are all, those of us who follow the rules, are all paying somewhere to the tune of like $1,000, depending on your car, or more for your insurance premiums per year.
Wow.
And so that's where the state is really trying to crack down on this. As we said in the report, it's the number of cases they are investigating has about doubled in the last 3 years.
So, I mean, I just have a question.
Yeah.
I've never tried to defraud an insurance company, but
let's do it together, Holly. Here we go.
Wouldn't you have to have a police report that would have the date of the incident on it, or like how does that work?
Well, that's something we should unpack, because there's a few answers to that. Yes, you're going to have a police report if you call the police. And with regards to gaming the system, so there's different kinds of collisions, right? There's a fender bender in a parking lot where maybe you are not calling the police, and then there's the kind where people call 911 because the car is upside down.
Right.
Those are very different things.
Sure.
This is not going to work on the one where the car is upside down.
Sure.
This is going to work on the one where, but even these tiny little things that don't seem like much can be thousands and thousands of dollars on these. We used to call them cars. Really, now they're computers on wheels.
Yeah.
But it does get into something else we've reported on in the past, and we'll report again on, I'm sure, which is in today's economy, with everything costing so much more, and insurance rates in particular have gone through the roof, a lot of people are finding themselves in fender benders and going, let's not call police. Let's not get insurance companies involved. Like, I know I'm at fault.
Yeah.
Let me cut you a check. How much is it going to be? $a couple $100? Nothing's $a couple $100 anymore. And so then all of a sudden, right, the person who's, allegedly not at fault takes the thing down to a body shop, and they say, yeah, okay, it's going to take you, $10,000 to get this thing back to where it was before. Sure, it still drives, but to get this thing back to where it was before, where you can resell it and you're not having issues, it's going to be $10,000. And all of a sudden, the person who said, we'll just take care of this on a handshake is going, no, I'm not paying $10,000. Right. Forget it. And now it's much, much harder because there's not a police report and evidence to say, and then you have insurance companies that have to fight it out.
But police struggle with that too, because they don't want to report to every single fender bender. They hope that people can work it out. They even say, you'll see signs on the highway, fender bender, pull off the side of the road, and, deal with it. Exchange driver's license, exchange information. But police have a hard time responding to everything like that. You know what I mean? It's not in their wheelhouse. Maybe listening to you should call the police more instead of just trusting the other person, because otherwise you got insurance problems.
Well, so listen, here's another thing I've heard many, many times. There's a police report that says the other guy is at fault. Why is the insurance company not paying 100%? Police reports are evidence. Mm-hmm. They are not adjudicated, right? They're a police officer shows up on a scene and they look at things and they go, here's what we think happened based on witness statements and whatever. And it is evidence that could be used should this thing ever have to be adjudicated. But for the most part, it's just another witness who wasn't even there. It's just an investigator who wasn't there to witness this thing. So keep that in mind, that police reports are not binding for insurance companies, because a lot of people think they are. And two, yes, I recommend calling police, but what the police do, you can also do. We all have cameras in our pockets right now. Yep. Document everything with timestamps, and the photos are now all timestamped these days. But photograph everything. Yes, get all of the other drivers' information. If you don't want to call police out there because it's not, you think, worth everyone's time, and fine. You don't have to call police, but it is worth having all of these things, because where the friction will come is when insurance companies say, no, not my client's fault, because they don't want to pay either. Mm-hmm. And then you may have to take these things to the point where your insurance company has to go fight on your behalf. And just one other thing I'll say on whether or not to call the police, you don't necessarily have to call police. I have when in situations where we've been in car accidents, and I do. But you don't have to, but you do. It is required. A lot of people are like, oh, maybe we just won't let insurance even know that this existed. Technically, that in and of itself is insurance fraud. You, by getting your policy, somewhere in the language of your policy, it says that when I'm involved in something, I am required to report it to my insurance company. And so you don't, because you don't want your premiums to come up. But that in and of itself can be a cause for an insurance company to drop you or to not make claims if they figure it out.
Wow, that is great information. You always make me more of a cynic than I already was.
That's my job,
good
right?
Stuff today. Very
Thanks.
good, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. That was Matt McGabhart, our KSL investigator. So, look, do you already have your lunch plans figured out? If not, it's Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday. Yay!
The same day.
So we're going to talk about that, how folks are celebrating, plus Greg's closing arguments when we come back.
Is your financial advisor managing your risk or just a spreadsheet? Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. Many financial advisors rely on target date funds, which are one-size-fits-all portfolios that don't know your name, your family, or your goals. And that passive management can leave you dangerously exposed. At Trajan, we look at the whole picture, not just the stocks everyone else buys, but the private market opportunities most advisors ignore. And as fiduciaries, we build a strategy around you, coordinating your investments, tax strategy, and estate into one cohesive plan. Your financial life deserves more than just a generic portfolio. Real planning isn't a stack of statements. It's the confidence of knowing where your income will come from for the next 30 years. Good enough isn't good enough for your family. It's time for a change. Schedule your complimentary consultation today. Call 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Private equity investments require accreditation. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
Join us at Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade event, our biggest trade event of the year, May 14th through the 17th. Trade in your RV and get the highest value guaranteed. Then upgrade for less with new RVs starting as low as $94 a month. Plus, take 25% off select maintenance services. Save up to 40% on camp-ready must-haves. And enter to win a new RV. Don't miss the Red, White, and New Trade event at your local Camping World, May 14th through the 17th. We'll see you there.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Spring is calling, and we're not sending into voicemail. I bet you're thinking about heading south this spring, but what if you tried something different, like Cedar City and Bryan Head? With gas prices going up, this is the kind of trip that gives you more vacation for the tank you're already on. Start with Three Peaks OHV trails that say, go ahead, take the scenic route, then cool it down with disc golf. Because yes, you can be competitive and outdoorsy at the same time. Next, Thor's Hideout. Legendary hike, epic payoff. And if you want the kind of ride you'll talk about all week, hit the Iron Hills Trail System, now an official recreation trail. Just need to chill? Frontier Homestead Park, Cedar City Veterans Park, or play around at Cedar City Golf Course. Then finish strong with local dining, shopping, and small town charm in the historic downtown of Cedar City and Parowan. Spring is calling. Answer it with a one-tank getaway at visitcedarcity.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Turn Community Services helps people with disabilities live more independently through support with housing, jobs, and daily life. They also help build confidence, skills, and community connections. Associate Executive Director Brenda Harris joins us with more.
At Turn Community Services, this work is personal to me. I've seen how the right support can truly change someone's life, not by taking over, but by helping them build a life that feels like their own. Our mission is simple but powerful. We turn dreams into reality. Our vision is a community where people of all abilities are valued, included, and have the opportunity to live meaningful lives. And the way we get there is through our core values of choice, quality, and respect. We take the time to really know each person and their goals, their routines, what brings them joy. We walk alongside them as they create a life that reflects that. Turn spans the entire state of Utah, supporting individuals in their homes, workplaces, and communities. This past year, over 780 individuals and 400 team members were part of Turn. This is about helping people feel seen, supported, and empowered in their everyday lives.
By continuing to support people across Utah, Turn Community Services is strengthening communities, expanding inclusion, and helping individuals live more independent, meaningful lives. Learn more at turncommunityservices.org. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. anyhourservices.com.
The new Inside Sources.
Well, today is not only Taco Tuesday, but it's also Cinco de Mayo. Isn't that beautiful? That is Yamilet Arellano, a young girl from Kearns who actually won a national mariachi competition last year.
That's amazing.
That's
she's amazing,
incredible.
very talented.
Good for her.
So, yeah, you said it's Taco Tuesday and Cinco de Mayo, so I know what I'm doing for dinner for sure.
So how often does that happen? When they both happen the same day?
It's 4 times every 28 years. So you would think that it's every 7 years. It's not because of leap year and stuff, so it does vary. But 4 times every 28 years, you can get
Yes.
Taco Tuesday on Cinco de Mayo.
On Cinco de Mayo. There you go.
And you know, it's funny / not funny. I mean, I would say Cinco de Mayo may be a prime example of cultural appropriation because this is not Mexican Independence Day or anything like that. It actually was the day that an outnumbered Mexican army defeated the powerful French army at the Battle of Puebla in 1862. So anyway.
I never knew what Cinco de Mayo was.
Yeah, well, it's the 5th of May.
I got that part.
Okay, so I do want to share that there are some activities going on. Draper is having a festival 6 to 8 p.m. at the Draper Park. And I would say also, if you go to KSL or Deseret News, there's an article that you can find both places about food deals. So the food deals of Cinco de Mayo, right? So, of course, you've got like the Taco Bell and Chipotle, but you also have Freddy's Frozen Custard. I don't know why. Jack in the Box, Papa Murphy's. So Papa Murphy's, which is a bake-your-own pizza place, you can get a 16-inch Taco Grande pizza featuring refried beans, salsa, tomatoes, black olives, cheese, and a choice of chicken or beef. I don't know if I would like taco pizza.
I think it sounds good, actually. Taco anything sounds good.
Taco anything, right? Okay, so I actually have a taco joke because I had to do that, right?
Okay.
Why shouldn't you trust tacos?
I don't know.
Because they always spill the beans.
That's true.
I cracked myself
There
up.
you go.
So-
Taco Tuesday.
Oh, okay. So, look, I hope that people really do enjoy the culture because I think it's really great. And that mariachi singer was fantastic.
It seems like Cinco de Mayo, you want to go out. You want to go have a meal or cook tacos at home or something like that.
Exactly.
It's a good.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about some of the other on this day things. So on this day in 1809, Mary Kies became the first woman to receive a U.S. patent. And it was for a hat, believe it or not. She designed a method to weave straw with silk to create women's hats. And she actually got a patent, and she was the first American woman to do so. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I wonder what those would have looked like. They probably still make some version of that.
I don't. Like, I just can't pull up in my mind
silk hat combo.
Silk and straw. Yeah. Okay, so on this day in 1864, Nellie Bly was born. Her birth name was Elizabeth Seaman, but she went by Nellie Bly. She was a journalist, and one of the things she's very well known for is she went undercover in an mental institution, in an asylum. And she...
As a patient?
As a patient. So she went undercover. She got admitted as a patient, even though there was nothing wrong with her. She wanted to expose what was happening inside because there had been rumors, and she, like, it was terrifying, the things that they were trying to do to her based on false diagnoses, right? She didn't actually have a diagnosis. And so
But they decided she did.
They decided she did, and then they wanted to do all these treatment, cruel and inhumane. I mean, but her investigative reporting really, really had a huge impact in the way the United States started to run mental institutions.
Wow.
So, yeah, she also set the record for circling the world in 72 days in 1890. So I thought that was funny because she wanted to beat Jules Verne,
same
right,
woman?
around the world. Yeah, same woman later. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Two incredible like life-altering things.
Yeah, so she did the around the world trip 3 years after she went undercover in the mental institution. Okay, I want to say this, and you probably have some information on this. So in 1904... on May 5th, Cy Young pitched the first perfect game in MLB history.
Yeah, so a perfect game. So there's something called a no-hitter, which is you pitch the whole game and the other team never gets a hit.
Right.
But a perfect game is even better than that. Do you know why?
I have no idea.
So
actually.
A perfect game means not only did no one get a hit, but no one even got on base. It means you didn't walk anyone, you didn't hit anyone, never. You know what I mean? You just you faced sort of the minimum number of batters and you got everybody out.
All right.
So that's a no-hitter is very rare. A perfect game is extraordinarily rare.
Oh wow. Okay.
We're gonna get a texter telling me I'm wrong, but I think I'm right.
In 1925, John T. Scopes was arrested for teaching evolution in Tennessee on this day. So you remember that what ended up being a Supreme Court case, right?
Yeah, after the Scopes monkey trial.
Yeah, exactly, because he was preaching evolution, not preaching, he was teaching evolution as a theory, and he was arrested for that, and it ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court, where they ruled that they can teach evolution in the classroom.
That was a legal thing to do. That was significant because church and state. That was very
exactly. So that was 101 years ago today that he was arrested. And then one last one from me in actually I have two more. 1978, Ben and Jerry's opened their first ice cream shop. And then in 2021, I actually found this in 2021 and included it in my master database of On This Day in History. Evidence of Africa's earliest burial was a 3-year-old boy who died 78,000 years ago. And that story was published on this day in 2021.
I think it is so incredible, and I know they do carbon dating or whatever it is, that they can find something and then they can determine its age. Like, what did you say, 78,000 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
and a 3-year-old.
So what mankind was like at that time, compared to where we are today.
Yeah.
I mean, the bone structure.
And they're finding new stuff all the time. I'm reading these fascinating new discoveries about genetic crossing between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, which doesn't surprise me at all, right? But now they've got the genetic evidence to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, I did one of those DNA tests, and they told me that I had high Neanderthal genes. My wife still teases me about that. I'm in the top 89%.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, that explains a lot. Well, I'm going to digress for just a minute. We started the show talking about this data center in Box Elder County, and I appreciate very much the Commissioner, Lee Perry, that joined us and explained what was going on there. I also watched what happened last night, and there were a lot of citizens that were very concerned about what's going on. And I think a lot of people who felt like this was brought on them, I don't know, a little bit too soon. I appreciate the county commissioner telling us, look, this isn't the end all, this isn't the wherewithal, this isn't going to end it, but there's still more to happen. And I hope that's true, because I'm not saying it's a bad project. It potentially could be a great project. It could also potentially be a disaster for the state and for other things. And I hope that we take a step back, and I hope that some of these protesters are able to get their word out, because I don't know that happened yet. We haven't had an opportunity to hear the other side of this. But these data centers are probably the way of the future. But 40,000 acres and having buildings on there, it's a real problem to think about what we're doing to that part of the state. I mean, it's a big swath of land that they're setting aside for this, and they're going to put this data center on there. They're going to consume a tremendous amount of energy. I'm not saying it's bad. It sounds like I'm saying it's bad. I don't know if it is or not. I don't know enough about it, and I think that's the problem. I think that's the whole problem with this whole project, Holly, is that people don't know enough about it to say what's going on. But if you watch that video of those people, they had their hearing not in the county council chambers. They had it in the fairgrounds. I mean, and it was packed, and people were carrying signs. Most of them, ones that I saw, were concerned about it. There were even some sort of pushing and shoving going on. So I hope that's not done. I hope it's not a done deal. And I take Lee Perry at his word that there's still more to be discovered here, and maybe there'll be some environmental studies and things like that. But
all right, thanks
anyway,
for your closing
interesting
arguments.
for them. Well, some major updates to homeless policies can be coming to Salt Lake City, just as the state pours more money into its own plans to tackle homelessness. Maria Shileos has more on Utah's Noon News coming up next.